Chapter 1, Prologue. An articulate voice of a young female. This was definitely not a game. Of course, it wasn't a dream either. But her voice definitely resounded within my head. Hell, I could even see the quest window floating in midair, too. Could it be? Even today? While fervently praying in my head, I cautiously opened the information window. Tiring. Daily quest, preparations to become strong. Press up, 100 times, incomplete, 0/100. Sit up, 100 times, incomplete, 0/100. Squat, 100 times, incomplete, 0/100. Running, 10 kilometers, incomplete, 0/10. Warning, incompletion of daily quests will result in appropriate levels of punishment. As soon as I got to confirm the contents of the daily quest, I began cussing out reflexively. Just how many days has it been already? Part 1, Rank E Hunter. Rank E Hunter, Seong Jin-Woo. No matter where he went, this title always followed him around. Jin-Woo's overall strength was almost the same as a regular human being. With the exception of being a bit stronger and his wounds healing slightly faster, Jin-Woo was about the same as regular people in every other aspect. It was par for the course then, that he'd always end up getting injured. He nearly died several times, too. Of course, it wasn't as if Seong Jin-Woo liked being a hunter. The work was dangerous, others made fun of him, and to confound the matters even further, the pay was pretty pathetic, as well. If it weren't for the medical aid paid out by the Hunter Association to the hunters in their payroll, he'd have turned in his hunter license and quit by now, and lived his life like a regular person. Unfortunately, someone like Seong Jin-Woo, in his mid-20s and lacking in any tangible job skills, there was no other way but to remain as a hunter if he wanted to pay for his mother's hospital fee of millions of won every month. Should one say that he had no choice in the matter? That was why, even though he didn't want to, he simply had to participate in the raid supervised by the association. Hunters operating within the same area tended to know each other pretty well. In the event of a gate opening up, all the hunters in that district would be asked to come, that's why. The hunters who had arrived early sipped on the cups of coffee handed out by the association's employee and shared cordial greetings with each other. "Oh, hey. Mr. Kim, over here." "Here." "Oh. Mr. Park, what are you doing here? I thought you were giving up on being a hunter?" "Well, My wife is pregnant with our second child." Is that so?" "Yeah, for a hunter to earn big in one go, participating in a raid is the best, isn't it?" Mr. Kim jovially burst out in laughter. Mr. Park followed suit with a sheepish chuckle, before asking Kim, "By the way, why do I feel like that the association is calling on us less and less nowadays? Did the number of gates decrease or something?" Of course not. That's only because the guilds are getting all worked up over clearing the gates. It's got nothing to do with the association. I hear that various guilds are jumping in with both feet since there is big profit involved in this whole thing. Well, in that case, since this raid is being supervised by the association, it should be safe, no? Mr. Park took a glance around as if he was getting nervous. If a guild was not involved today, that meant there wasn't enough profit to be had, and if there wasn't enough profit to be had, then that could only mean that this particular gate's difficulty would be low. Of course, nothing in this world was 100% absolute. It wasn't just Mr. Park, other hunters were nervously glancing around as well. I wonder. Mr. Kim finished the rest of his coffee while avoiding answering his friend, before spotting a certain someone and raised his hand in happiness. He's here. Hey, Mr. Seong. Mr. Seong. Other hunters also displayed joy at discovering that young man. Hello. It was none other than Seong Jin-Woo. Jin-Woo performed a simple nod of the head at the joyous Mr. Kim and walked by. After making sure Jin-Woo was well out of earshot, Mr. Kim began sniggering while confidently speaking up. So, Jin-Woo showed up. Then it's going to okay today, too. Mr. Park's eyes widened up and he hurriedly asked Kim. What was that? Is that Hunter Seong Jin-Woo really strong? Ah. Right, of course, you wouldn't know who he is. He's a hunter who started working shortly after you left, you see. However, every hunter here knows who that kid is by now. He's really that strong? Wait, why is he working for the association, then? Why not for a guild or as a freelancer? Kim sniggered some more before narrowing his eyes. You know what that guy's nickname is? How should I know that? Come on, man. Just tell me already. Humanity's weakest weapon. Weakest? Not something like the ultimate weapon? Dude, that's the nickname for the rank S hunter Choi Jong-in. That kid is the weakest weapon. I'm pretty sure he's the weakest hunter in the Republic of Korea. Really? Park began frowning deeply. Why would other hunters greet this Seong Jin-Woo if he was really that weak? After all, didn't they need someone to trust their backs if things went south? Park couldn't really understand the reactions of other hunters. When Park's head tilted this way and that, Kim chuckled and poked the side of Park with his elbow. The raid Seong Jin-Woo participates in will only have low difficulty because he's so weak. The association would never entrust him with a tough job, don't you get that? They don't want to see him get killed, right? Only then did Park's expression brighten up. All right. Yeah. His wife was deeply worried about him since this would be his first raid in quite a while. Honestly, even he himself was worried, too. However, now that he listened to Kim's words, he felt like a weight was lifted off his mind. Kim continued on. That guy, there was a rumor not too long ago that said he got injured participating in a raid of a rank E gate and spent a week in the hospital. A hunter got injured by a rank E gate? That's right. No one expected to see a hunter getting injured during a rank E gate raid, so they didn't even bring along a healer, apparently. That's why he spent a week in a hospital? Pooh ha ha ha. When Park began guffawing too loudly, Kim hurriedly hushed him. Stop it, man. Mr. Seong might hear you. Goo. I didn't think of that. Park cautiously checked Jin-Woo's reactions as he continued to giggle. Thankfully, the distance was far enough and the youth didn't seem to have heard them. Of course, they were mistaken. I can hear everything, you geezers. A bitter smile formed on Jin-Woo as he tried hard to ignore them. At times like today, he couldn't help but blame his unusually acute sense of hearing. It seemed that he arrived too early and the raid was yet to commence. Did I arrive too early? Jin-Woo looked around to while away the waiting time, spotted the association employee handing out warm coffee, and walked closer. Can I get a cup of coffee as well? Oh. Seong Jin-Woo Hunter Nim. I'm really sorry, but we ran out of coffee just now. The cold winter breeze brushed past the tip of his nose. Jin-Woo quietly wiped his nose with his index finger. What a sad day it was, for the coffee to run out as soon as it was his turn to get one. Why do you persist on being a hunter, Mr. Seong Jin-Woo? I'm sorry. Jin-Woo lowered his head and apologized. The young, beautiful girl using healing magic in front of Jin-Woo, Ju-Wee showed how unhappy she was with a pouting expression. I'm not trying to get you to apologize, you know? I'm only worried about you. If you continue fighting this way, sooner or later you'll be faced with a truly dangerous situation. Jin-Woo glanced past Ju-Wee's shoulders and took a look at other hunters fighting over yonder. When one entered through the gate, one would arrive at a place called dungeon. The rank of this particular dungeon should be around D. A dozen plus hunters were taking care of the monsters inside this dungeon without so much as breaking a sweat. Unfortunately, for a rank E, such a feat was nearly impossible. Normally, the job of healing the injured hunters from the back fell on the healers. Since he always got injured during raids, Jin-Woo was rather well known among the healers. Ju-Wee cautiously asked him. Perchance, is there a reason why you can't give up being a hunter? Jin-Woo resolutely shook his head. He didn't want to reveal anything personal to other people. I'm only doing this as a hobby. If I don't do this, I'll probably die of boredom, actually. Ju-Wee pouted even more. If you continue on with this hobby of yours, soon you'd be raiding a dungeon in the netherworld, you know? Jin-Woo was taken off guard from her remark and ended up chuckling out loudly. Thanks to that, Ju-Wee's nagging intensified. Don't laugh. Don't. Your injuries might get worse. Jin-Woo giggled before asking her. Where did you even learn to say stuff like that? What do you mean, where? It's from Mr. Kim way over there. Egu, that a juicy really went and did it, didn't he? As they chatted and laughed, his treatment was almost over. It was already too late by then, though. It seemed that the raid was pretty much over now. Jin-Woo's expression hardened. I only killed a single monster today. A rank E creature, no less. Seong Jin-Woo began fidgeting with the rank E magic crystal in his hand. The lowest grade magic crystal from a rank E monster fetched less than 100,000 won. For something he bet his life to earn, it was a pathetically small amount. TL, just over $88. A magic crystal from a rank C monster can sell for over 10 million won, though. TL, $8,830 plus. Too bad, a rank E hunter such as himself couldn't even attempt to kill a monster with a rank as high as C. Out of the blue, someone shouted out. Hey, there's another entrance over here. The nearby hunters rushed over there. It's true. There really is another path? Just as that hunter said, there was an entrance hidden within the dungeon itself. A dual dungeon, is it? So, such a thing actually exists for real. Mr. Seong, possessing over 10 years' experience as a hunter, looked into the hidden entrance and displayed how surprised he was. The interior of the hidden, cave-like passage was dark and nothing could be seen. Mr. Seong activated his speciality, flame magic, and tossed it further forward into the passage. The flame flew forward and illuminated the interior. The passageway seemed to go on forever. Soon enough, the flame lost its forward momentum, fell to the ground and smoldered for a bit before flickering out of existence. The passage was shrouded in darkness once more. Everyone, gather around. Let's have a meeting. The unspoken leader of this raid, Mr. Seong, called for other hunters to gather around. Jin-Woo's treatment was over by then, so he and Ju-Wee also joined in. Seong spoke up while sweeping his gaze over the gathered hunters. As you know very well, a gate will not close unless the dungeon's boss is killed. Since the gate itself is still intact even though we took care of all the monsters here, that can only mean that the boss is beyond that passageway. Seong pointed towards the hidden entrance. Hunters exchanged meaningful glances and nodded their heads. No one could disagree with that notion. Seong continued on. Now normally, we're supposed to relay this information back to the association and wait for their decision first, but if we do that, we might end up handing over the task of killing the boss to other hunters, and our takings for today's raid would decrease by a lot. The expressions of the hunters crumpled. Park's face hardened more than anyone else since he needed a lot of cash for his wife's pregnancy. Postnatal care eats up so much cash nowadays, you know. At this rate, there'd be no meaning behind him risking his life to participate in this raid. That's why I'd prefer if we took care of the boss before leaving this dungeon. So, what do you all think? Hunters fell into a deep contemplation. The truth was, no one here could figure out the current situation and so, their safety could not be guaranteed. However, the difficulty of this particular dungeon proved to be very low. So, the hidden dungeon within it couldn't have been that difficult, either. Seong coughed to draw everyone's attention to himself. Since we have 17 people here, let's put this to a vote, shall we? Once the decision has been made, no one complains. So, how about it? Others nodded their heads after hearing Seong's suggestion. No one was disagreeing with him. I vote for going ahead. Seong raised his hand. And then, other hunters began raising their hands one by one. Me too. Count me in as well. Park was the first to raise his hand, followed shortly after by Kim and a few other hunters. Of course, those disagreeing were plentiful, too. Let's go back. I feel that it'd be better to wait for the association's decision. The two opposing camps were neck and neck, and eventually, the final votes came down to Jin-Woo and Lee. I'm sorry. Lee bowed to Seong and added her vote to retreat camp. And so, the vote count for go ahead and retreat was at 8:8. A deadlock. Seong asked the hesitant Jin-Woo next. And you, Mr. Seong? Chapter 1 Fin. Chapter 2. Chapter 2. Everything now depended on Jin-Woo's decision. Jin-Woo's fingers grasped tight the rank E magic crystal in his hand as he took a glance next to him. Lee was shaking her head at him. It looked like she was deeply worried. Actually, Jin-Woo was worried inwardly as well. Now normally, he would never try to take on any unnecessary risk. Not only did he lack the abilities to do so, but he was also not brave enough, too. However, Jin-Woo had a younger sister who was about to become a university student in the coming months. I've no money saved up. Currently, Jin-Woo was 24 years old. He was at an age where he should be concentrating on his academic pursuits, but he gave up on that dream because, well, he had no money. He sure as hell didn't want his little sister to go through the same sacrifice, the same pain as he did. Right now, every cent was precious to him. It wasn't only Mr. Park who needed a big score today. Jin-Woo raised his hand up high. I vote for going ahead. It was then he heard a soft sigh of resignation coming from his side. Part 2, The Dual Dungeon. The passageway went on and on forever. In front, Mr. Seong and other strong hunters had taken the lead. Seong had summoned a small flame on top of his palm to illuminate the way forward. Mr. Kim asked him as he walked alongside Seong. We've walked really far, haven't we? Shouldn't we consider the time we need to escape from here as well? How long have we been walking? Kim looked at his wristwatch. Around 40 minutes. A gate shuts down completely 1 hour after the boss is killed, so we have a window of 20 minutes left or so. If we can't see the boss in the next 20 minutes, I suggest that we should just give up. I guess so. Seong nodded his head for a while, before pointing to his back with his thumb. Mr. Kim? It's dark out in front, so why don't you position yourself behind me? Kim stared at Seong's flames for a second or two, before he wordlessly pulled out his smartphone and switched on the screen. And then, the passageway got illuminated rather brightly. Seong alternated his gaze between his flame and the smartphone, before he too wordlessly began searching for his own phone. The very back of the group was the spot reserved for Jin-Woo, who was injured pretty badly not too long ago, and Lee, who didn't possess any combat skills whatsoever. Jin-Woo scratched the back of his neck. Pardon me, I'm really sorry. About what? About, dragging you here against your wishes. I'm fine with it, so you don't need to mind me. Jin-Woo cautiously studied Juhui's expression. She definitely did not look fine at all. Jin-Woo tilted his head this way and that while trying to read her mood better, before he asked her again, even more cautious than before. Are you really fine? That prompted Juhui to shift her gaze towards him. Of course I'm not. Are you of a sane mind? If you were stabbed a couple of inches higher, you'd have a hole in your heart by now. And what about those injuries on your arms and legs? I worked so hard to heal you somehow, yet you wish to throw yourself into yet another dungeon? Plus, you don't even know where we're going, too. She spoke so quickly that Jin-Woo felt like his mind was getting numb from hearing her. However, she was right about everything. If it weren't for the presence of the outstanding healer ranked B, Juhui, Jin-Woo wouldn't have been able to carry on living unaffected, never mind working as a hunter. It was a small wonder why such high-ranked and hard-to-find healers were valued so greatly within the halls of the association. Wait, now that I think about it, I owe Miss Juhui a lot, don't I? Juhui was a healer-type hunter, a rarest of the rare breeds. Not only that, she was a genius ranked at B as well. The association always asked her to heal the injured hunters whenever a gate opened up. And whenever Jin-Woo participated in a raid, he'd almost always end up sitting down next to her. Are you in pain? Please hold on for a little while longer. Haven't I seen you before? By any chance, are you the person from the last time? You're injured again? It's like, we're running into each other quite often nowadays, isn't it? You said that your name is Mr. Jin-Woo? Well, that. Is it going to be alright? Maybe, this life of a hunter doesn't really suit you. You're here again. Show me your arm. No, not that one. Use bandages on that arm. I meant the other one with the bone fracture. At the moment, it was way past the point of Jin-Woo feeling grateful for everything she had done, and firmly into the territory of him being apologetic for inconveniencing her. When Jin-Woo looked dispirited, Juhui also felt a bit bad about scolding him just now, and her attitude softened up considerably. You're really sorry? Yes, I am. Juhui fell into a deep contemplation for a bit, before she began gazing at him with the corner of her eyes and her lips slowly arched up. If you're really sorry, then how about you buy me dinner sometime? Now that was a totally unexpected offer. Jin-Woo looked at her with an expression of surprise and found a teasing smile etched on her face like a teenage girl. A teen girl, huh? The truth was, Juhui was still a young girl who had barely entered her 20s. Didn't she say that she'd be 21 next year? If her long hair was replaced with something shorter, and her current attire was swapped out for a school uniform, she'd completely look like high school senior. His wandering mind pictured the image of Juhui in a school uniform and his face reddened up somewhat. When Jin-Woo hesitated with his answer, Juhui's cheeks began puffing up like a balloon. What the? You don't want to buy me dinner? It happened, right then. Suddenly, it became quite hectic out in front. We found it. It's the boss chamber. Jin-Woo and Juhui's gazes automatically shifted to the front. And they saw a huge stone door blocking the passage. Hunters immediately surrounded this door. What is this? Why is there a door at the end of the cavern? Have we ever encountered a boss chamber with a door before? This is definitely the first time, I'm sure of it. Doesn't this feel strangely dangerous? Hunters began to express their doubts and fears one at a time. Since their own lives were on the line here, they had to be cautious and meticulous. However, if one were to become too cautious, one would end up failing to grasp the heaven-sent opportunity in the first place. Mr. Seong figured this was one such case. Are you all planning to return empty-handed after coming this far? Seong placed his hands on the door. If that's what you want, knock yourselves out. I'm pushing ahead, even if it means I'll be going alone. Seong was a rank C hunter with 10 years of experience. If it weren't for his age, which was over 60, he'd be making a killing in a big guild by now thanks to his excellent skills. And when a hunter like that voiced his opinion with such confidence, others began to feel less anxious than before. Wait a minute. A couple of hunters began recalling rumors of dual dungeons. I heard that there are incredible treasures hidden within dual dungeons. Yeah, I heard that a certain small to medium guild found a dual dungeon and grew into a large guild almost overnight. Monsters inside a dungeon always possess roughly the similar ranks no matter where they are located, so the hunt itself should not be too difficult. What if there were incredible treasures hidden with the dual dungeon just as the rumors said, and the monsters beyond this door were about the same difficulty as the rank D, E creatures they fought until now? I can't let that old man monopolize all the treasure. No freaking way. Postnatal care, the school fee for the firstborn kid, and let's not forget, this month's rent is almost due, too. The opinions of the hunters were now on the same page. Jin-Woo, too, steeled himself. I can't return home with just a single rank E magic crystal. At a bare minimum, I gotta kill a rank D, no, one more rank E monster. It didn't even have to be a monster, too. If it's treasure instead. Treasures or rare loot found in a dungeon would normally be divided equally among all the participants in a raid. It was quite a different way of sharing the rewards where one could only take possession of magic crystals one procured by themselves. If we score big today, then things might improve at home for a while. Jin-Woo nervously swallowed down his saliva. Ju-Hui saw his determined expression and asked him, "Is that how the expression of someone who's a hunter as a hobby looks like?" Jin-Woo shrugged his shoulders. Who'd bet their lives in their main line of profession nowadays? Unless it's a hobby, obviously. Eh? Just as a dumbfounded expression formed on Ju-Hui's face, Seong pushed the dungeon's door and it creaked open. There must have been some sort of mechanism installed on the heavy-looking door, since the physical strength of a 60-year-old man was enough to easily open it. Slam! Now that the door was wide open, the huge open interior revealed itself. Hunters hurriedly rushed in. Let's go in as well. Jin-Woo feared that he'd fall behind, so he grasped Ju-Hui's hand and took the lead. Ah! Ju-Hui's face reddened slightly as she followed after him. As soon as hunters set foot inside, flames erupted on the numerous torches packed tightly on the walls all at the same time. Thanks to that, the interior brightened up considerably. What's the heck? The lights came on by themselves? First time seeing a dungeon like this one. Something's different about this place. Hunters cautiously studied their surroundings. The overall atmosphere of the place was similar to that of an ancient temple. Not only that, an old and somewhat decrepit temple, something that might be buried and hidden beneath the ground, moss and weed could be seen sporadically on the floor, walls, and the ceiling. Several hunters shrunk back and shuddered slightly. It's a bit creepy in here, isn't it? Doesn't it feel like we're being watched by someone? Leaving behind the scared hunters, the 3-4 strongest of the group went in deeper. TSK. Don't say something that might jinx us, will ya? Let's end this quickly and go home. The interior was nonsensically huge. The chamber was shaped like a giant dome. It was as large as several Olympic stadiums, the one found in Seoul, were put together. No, maybe it was even bigger than that. However, one couldn't help but feel that it was still inadequate. The reason for that was rather obvious. That thing over there. And no freaking way that thing's the boss, right? In the deepest part of the dome, something so logic-defyingly humongous sat on a throne just as big as itself. It was none other than a huge stone statue of a god. Oh, my god. Wow. Shocked gasps leaked out from the hunters. The first image popping up in Jin-Woo's head was of the Statue of Liberty in New York. If that statue sat down on a chair, wouldn't it be as big as that statue of the unknown god? Well, Liberty was a woman, while the one sitting on the throne was a dude, though. No, hang on. Maybe it's even bigger than that. Hunters began nervously swallowing their saliva near the foot of the god statue. The taut and heavy apprehension and anxiety were clear to see on their faces as they worried about this statue being the dungeon's boss. However, the statue did not budge an inch. What a fortunate thing that was. Phew. Even Seong spat out a sigh of relief. Okay, everyone. Spread out. Now that they found some leeway, hunters split among themselves and began searching around the vicinity. I don't think there's a single monster in here. You think so, too? Never mind a monster, I can't even see a single bug, too. The chamber of the stone god statue might have been massive, yet its actual inner structure was on the simpler side. On the walls, countless torches could be found there. And in front of these walls, more stone statues, slightly taller than a human being, stood tall and unmoving. There were lots of them here as well, found at a certain distance from one another. They are all rather beautiful, aren't they? It's like they are works of art, no? Objects held by each of the stone statues were varied and different. Some held weapons, there was one with a book, some carried musical instruments, and even torches. It's as if they are like statues of a holy temple or something. Seong finished what Kim wanted to say. Then, Seong found something beneath his feet. Isn't this a magic formation? He found a magic formation that he had never seen before located in the middle of this temple. It was then. Excuse me, Mr. Seong? A juicy, something's written here. Can you come over here and take a look? One of the hunters discovered a statue that was different from others and called out to Seong. Seong stopped studying the magic formation and got up from the floor. Other hunters all gathered around the statue Seong was headed off to. Only this statue featured a pair of wings and carried a stone slate. What the hunters focused on was the letters carved into the slate. Seong took a sweeping look at the slate and muttered to no one in particular. It's rune alphabet. The rune alphabet. Words that could not be found anywhere on Earth, and found only within dungeons. Only the hunters who had awakened the magic-related professions could decipher them. The laws of the Karutanon Temple. Seong read the very first verse. With a deeply nervous face, Jin-Woo listened to the contents of the slate, as read out by Mr. Seong. However, someone suddenly tugged at his arm. When he looked back, he spotted Ju-Hui and her deathly pale complexion. Chapter 2 Fin. Chapter 3. Chapter 3. Ju-Hui's complexion was incredibly poor. Seong Jin-Woo was deeply taken aback by this sight. What's wrong? Are you ill somewhere? There. Over there. Jin-Woo's eyes followed Ju-Hui's trembling pointing finger. She was pointing at the giant god statue. More specifically, she was pointing at the god statue's face. Jin-Woo could only tilt his head in confusion because it looked pretty much the same as before. Ju-Hui stuttered some words out. The eyes. The eyes of the god statue moved towards us. Just now. Pardon me? Jin-Woo looked again several times, but nothing seemed to have changed. There was no visible change to the god statue. I'm sure you've made a mistake. However, it seemed like Ju-Hui didn't hear him. Her head stayed lowered, and as she held onto Jin-Woo's arm, her entire body trembled even harder. Hang on a sec here. Even Jin-Woo picked up on this strange but ominous sensation now. The world was eerily quiet. So much so, it felt just too bizarre. No sounds. Even the sounds of the flames burning on the torches could not be heard anymore. First law. In the meantime, Seong's voice continued on as he read the contents of the slate. Worship the god. Second law. Exalt the god. Third law. Prove your piety. Those who do not keep to these laws shall not leave this place alive. It was then. Slam. Everyone was jolted back to their senses at the sudden explosion of noise. What was that? Where did that sudden noise come from? The first person to notice the change in the situation was none other than Jin-Woo. Because his senses were running at full tilt already, he could tell where the noise was coming from right away. The door. The door is closed. As soon as Jin-Woo shouted out, everyone shifted their gazes towards the doorway. The door they left open was now firmly shut close. God d***mn it. I can't stand this. The hunter who was the first to oppose the idea of continued exploration of the dungeon began spitting out cusses as he took large strides towards the door. I'm going home, so you all can have fun with a boss or treasures or whatever. That hunter glared at Seong with an expression that contained all of his dissatisfaction before he spun his head around and angrily grabbed the door handle. It happened, then. Seong's eyes grew extra large. No! Splash! The area above the hunter's neck suddenly vanished. The headless body powerlessly collapsed to the ground. Hyachk? Yua? Yuwak! Hunters began screaming their heads off. The stone statue that smashed a human's head apart with a steel mace returned to its original spot next to the door, as if nothing important had happened, its body completely covered in fresh blood. That thing can move? What the hell? Does that mean every statue in here can move, too? We gotta fight against these things? I couldn't even see the d***mn thing swing the mace, so how can I? Unlike others here, though, Jin-Woo knew the truth. Their troubles only had just begun. Didn't Ju-Wee say it earlier? The eyes. The eyes of the god statue moved towards us. Just now. If what she said is true. A chill rapidly ran down his spine. Jin-Woo forced his stiff neck to turn around so he could look behind him. Oh, **T. The stone statue of the god was looking down at him. Part 3, Commencement of the Attack. It was then, the god statue's two black eyes changed to red. Was this the instincts of a hunter? No, the instincts of a living being were sending out urgent warning signals. Something was coming. Something none of them could contend with. Jin-Woo turned towards the other hunters and cried out as loudly as he could. Get down! Almost at the same time, red beams of light shot out from the eyes of the god statue. Jin-Woo hugged Ju-Wee and threw their bodies to the floor. Buzz! The beam shot right by the spot Jin-Woo had been standing. 1/10 of a second. No, he survived by 1/100th of a second. That was definitely too close for comfort. Unfortunately, not everyone was as lucky as Jin-Woo. Yuwak? Yuahahak. Those who were swallowed up by the red light evaporated where they stood. Only the ashes of what used to be human hunters remained where the beam flew past. The screams came not from the dead hunters, but those who witnessed their final moments from the sidelines, actually. What the f***ck was that? You. How can such a thing even be? The remaining hunters began freaking out. Out of the 17 hunters, only 11 survived. Not one of them had ever experienced such a powerful attack before in their lives. I barely made it because he told me to get down. If it wasn't for Mr. Seong's shouts. Hunters stared at Jin-Woo while nervously swallowing their saliva. Jin-Woo turned out to be their unlikely savior. Without his timely warning, they could only imagine what would have happened to them, and that thought sent chills down their spines. While still lying prostrate on the ground, Jin-Woo glared at the god statue. Its eyes were still glowing in red, but it did not attack again. Is the attack over? Jin-Woo looked underneath him. The scared silly Ju-Wee was trembling in his arms. This was the reason why she worked for the association and not for a big guild, and participated in simple raids like this one, even though she was nominally an excellent hunter with a rank as high as B. Ju-Wee's breathing was getting rougher by the second. He couldn't let her be like this. He had to do something. Jin-Woo was about to raise his body up, thinking that he gotta do something here, but then, someone grabbed his shoulders and pushed him back down, hard. Don't get up. It was Mr. Seong, somehow next to the youth before anyone had noticed it. Jin-Woo was flustered, but still did as he was told. Seong then shouted at the other hunters. Nobody move. Stay exactly where you are. Seong looked around before focusing on Jin-Woo. Only those that moved got killed. Those who listened to you and got down survived. It seems that way. Seong tilted his head slightly. I thought you warned us because you figured something out? No, well, I just felt something dangerous was coming, so. A flash of light brushed past Seong's eyes just then. His instincts are pretty good, in other words. He's a rank E hunter? If only his abilities were a bit higher. Just as Seong stared at Jin-Woo with a rueful expression, Jin-Woo too found a little bit of leeway to check out the older hunter's condition. And the youth's eyes opened up wider after finding something pretty terrible. Juicy, your arm? This is nothing. I can still hold on. But, still. Jin-Woo swallowed down his saliva. Seong's other hand that wasn't pressing down on Jin-Woo's shoulder, his left arm, was gone. Seong studied Jin-Woo's conditions for a bit, before he took off the t-shirt he was wearing, and while not even showing the enormous amount of pain he must be feeling, he wrapped up what was left of his left arm. Help me tie up the end, please? It's difficult to sew with only one hand. Jin-Woo could only nod his head then. They were able to somehow stop the bleeding for now. Rather than a scream or a pained moan, Seong let out a long sigh. It was a sigh containing 10 years' worth of experience as a hunter. Phew. Now that the first aid was over, Seong's gaze became a level sharper as he studied his surroundings. Although the god statue stopped attacking them, their situation hadn't improved in the slightest. And like so, seconds continued to tick by. Sob. Just why do we have to suffer like this? A few hunters even began shedding tears now. We can't stay like this forever. The patience of the other hunters was running out as well. Jin-Woo agreed with that sentiment, though. Right, we can't stay here forever. But, what could he possibly do here? If Seong's suspicion was correct, then the moment they moved, they'd get attacked. And, even if they got lucky and managed to evade the beams and reach the door, there were the two stone statues guarding the doorway to worry about, as well. They were a big problem too, actually. The movements of the doorkeepers were so fast that he couldn't see it with his eyes. Could he or anyone else open the door and escape before those statues attacked them? It sounded completely impossible. Which meant that the annihilation of the hunters was just a matter of time. Wait. A matter of time? When his thoughts arrived there, a strong sense of disharmony filled him up. An event that couldn't have happened, but it happened anyway. But no one else seemed to have picked up on it yet. Something. We missed something here. Without a doubt, the answer to their salvation hid in that something. It was then. Don't move! Seong shouted at Mr. Ju, who was at the far end of the group. Shut up! Who knows when that thing will start attacking us again? But you want me to stay here and wait? Mr. Ju was a close combat type hunter. These types of hunters possessed far superior physical abilities than regular human beings. On top of this, Ju was about to sign up with a big guild after his skills were acknowledged by them not too long ago as well. I'll not die here today. While keeping low to the ground, Ju put all his strength down to his legs. His aim was at the doorway. The muscles on his legs were swelling up fast. D***M it. Seong could only mutter out to himself. Right then, Ju kicked the ground and exploded forward. Meanwhile, Jin-Woo hurriedly turned his head to look at the god statue. Just as he suspected, the eyes of the statue were fixed on the back of Mr. Ju. And then, the chilling red ray shot out from those eyes. Buzz! The beam slammed on the back of Mr. Ju. Kaya Hawk! The female hunter screamed at the top of her lungs. She must have developed a leak, because a puddle of yellow liquid formed where she was squatting on the ground. The expressions of the hunters froze hard. Oh my God! Mr. Ju no longer stood where the red beam flew past. Only the pair of ownerless ankles could be seen now. One of the men with a weaker constitution began emptying the contents of his stomach. B. Blurg. Jin-Woo's expression also crumpled as well. As expected, the god statue could easily finish them off if it felt like it. It'd be easier than stepping on squirming bugs, actually. If that's the case, then why hadn't it? It could kill them, yet it hadn't done that. This was a completely different pattern of behavior compared to the monsters that attacked as soon as spotting human hunters in their vicinity. These statues only moved if certain conditions were met, the doorkeepers that only attacked if someone approached the door, the eyes of the god statue firing that red beam if someone moved. It was like a game with a set regulation. Hang on. Could there be some kind of rules in this chamber? It was here that a piece of puzzle found its place in Jin-Woo's head. He began recalling the contents of the stone slate Seong was reading not too long ago. That was why. The laws of the Karutanon Temple, was it? Regulation was rules, and rules could be laws as well. The key to their safe escape from this chamber had to be buried within those warnings found on the stone slate. Worship the god. That was the first law. Did you just say something? Seong shifted his gaze back to Jin-Woo. Instead of a reply, Jin-Woo simply placed his index finger on his lips. It was a sign asking for a bit of time to think. If my thoughts are right. Jin-Woo slowly rose up. Seong hurriedly tried to stop the youth, but Jin-Woo shook his head while carrying a determined expression. Doesn't look like he gave up on living. Seong nodded his head. Jin-Woo kept his eyes trained squarely at the god statue and carefully stood up. Almost right away, the eyes of the statue were fixed on Jin-Woo. Buzz! And as expected, the red beam was fired in his direction. If he got down to the ground a moment slower, it'd be his face melting away, instead of a few strands of hair on top of his head. Lying face down on the ground, Jin-Woo breathed in and out quite heavily. Heek, 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 heek. He nearly died just then. The moment the statue's eyes met his, he thought he was going to die for sure. He somehow did dodge it, but his legs wouldn't stop shaking from the fear. Still, he learned something important just now. It's not attacking someone who's moving around. As long as he was squatting low to the ground, he could go anywhere he wanted to and the statue's eyes would remain still. However, if one stood up, then the red beam would be fired without hesitation. The D*MN thing only attacks if we breach a certain height. That was why Jin-Woo bet his life on proving this theory right just now. And now, he was sure of it. The meaning behind the first law, that was. Chapter 3 Fin. Chapter 4. Chapter 4, Chapter 4. Part 4, The Three Laws. Jin-Woo shouted out towards the rest of the hunters. Everyone! Their attention shifted towards him in an instant. Jin-Woo spoke as he met their gazes. You must kowtow towards the god statue. Hunters began tilting their heads after hearing him. Kowtow. You want us to kowtow to that statue? Hunters exchanged glances with each other, before loudly cussing out at Jin-Woo. F***CKU. What bullsh**T are you spewing here? What the hell? How can you say something like that under the current circumstances? Have you lost your mind, Seong Jin-Woo? Kim's face became boiling red as he began snorting like a bull. I had no idea you, Mr. Seong, would be like this. If I could move, then I'd have punched you in the face already. Jin-Woo bit on his lower lip. 6 of their comrades were killed by the god statue. So, it was rather obvious that the surviving hunters would cuss him out when he told them to kowtow towards that abominable thing. It wasn't hard to understand what these hunters were feeling at the moment. And, the most important thing was, he had no logical evidence to back his theory up. He only had his gut feelings. Indeed, that was the only way to describe it. However, I'll do as you say. That voice came from Jin-Woo's back. Everyone's eyes immediately shifted there. It was Mr. Seong, effectively the leader of this group. Mr. Seong Ajusi? You are going to kowtow to that F***king statue? Just as other hunters began to freak out, Seong looked straight at Jin-Woo. Young man. You've discovered something, haven't you? Jin-Woo resolutely nodded his head. Is it your instinct again? Yes. For the time being. I see. Just now, 11 people survived thanks to Jin-Woo's instincts. Well, with the death of Mr. Ju, there were 10 now, but still, if it was Jin-Woo's instincts, then wouldn't it be worth believing it at least once more? That's what Seong thought. When Seong knelt down and kowtowed towards the god statue, the mood had become solemn and silent. He's really doing it. Seizing upon this opportunity, Jin-Woo shouted out once more. Everyone, I beg of you. Please kneel before the god statue. We might be able to get out of here alive. Might live. Might be able to get out alive. The impact those simple words carried was quite explosive. We might live? We can get out of here? With just one kowtow? The hesitant hunters began to plop down to the ground, as if they were really kowtowing. The number of them performing the act gradually increased. In the end, even the complaining Kim bowed his head towards the statue. However, there was no visible change to the god statue. Indeed, those chilling red lights still shone from the eyes of the statue. Jin-Woo felt his heart go cold. Was I wrong? It was here that his gaze shifted to Ju-Wei next to him. No matter how generous one was, it was difficult to describe her posture of squatting on the ground shivering, while holding her head in her hands as her kowtowing. What if? Jin-Woo carefully grasped Ju-Wei's wrist. She raised her head like a scared cat. Seeing her, Jin-Woo wordlessly nodded his head. Only then did she relax her muscles somewhat. With that, Jin-Woo was able to slowly change her posture. Done. There was only one person remaining now. And that would be him. Jin-Woo knelt down towards the god statue, placed his hands on the ground, and slowly lowered his head. Finally, something began to change. Ha! Ah! Hunters who had noticed the change first raised their voices. The god statue. Look at the statue. Its eyes. The red light buzzing in its eyes was gradually weakening. What the hell? Is this really going to work? Eventually, the red light completely vanished. Oh! Hunters began rejoicing loudly. The red light is gone. We made it. The excited hunters began standing up one at the time. Even then, the statue didn't fire the red beam. Jin-Woo belatedly raised his head and spat out a sigh of relief. Phew. Just as he suspected, this chamber operated strictly within the set regulations. If that's the case, then, this game was far from over. 2 more laws still remained. The second law, exalt the god. And the third law, prove one's piety. It was then. Rumble. Accompanied by a goosebump-inducing noise, the entire chamber began to shake. Jin-Woo's expression hardened immediately. As I thought. His suspicions proved to be correct once more. Things were only getting started. The humongous god statue was slowly rising up from the stone throne. Ha! Hunters were hugging each other while shedding tears of joy until then, but when they realized this turn of events, they all froze up like statues themselves. What? What the hell? It wasn't over yet? This can't be. None of them could articulate what they wanted to say. Despair rapidly dyed their expressions. Soon, the god statue completely stood up from the throne. The creature swept its gaze around once, and began walking towards the hunters. Thud! Every time the god statue stepped on the ground, the whole world seemed to shake. Thud! It was so tall that its head was almost scraping against the chamber's indescribably high ceiling. Thud! Even when the hunters were overwhelmed by the statue's sheer size, the thing was gradually closing its distance to them. Mr. Seong! Mr. Seong Jin-Woo! What can we do? The hunters who were cussing at Jin-Woo only a short while ago hurriedly began crowding around him. Is there a way out of this? Say something. All these adults were forming tearful expressions as if they'd start breaking down in sobs and wails very soon. Currently, Jin-Woo was their only hope. Jin-Woo helped the frozen stiff Ju-Hui up from the ground and began talking about the second law. Exalt the god. That's the key. Wait, isn't that? Kim suddenly butted in as if he knew something others didn't. Isn't that what's written on the slate? Correct. Worship the god. Exalt the god. And finally, prove your piety. We need to satisfy all three laws. Jin-Woo began speaking faster and faster. Why? The god statue was already a stone's throw away from them. Thud! Everyone's complexion paled as the gigantic shadow loomed over them. Let me try something. A young male hunter who usually kept to himself suddenly took a step forward. What are you trying to do? I've been in a church choir. I'm confident if it's about exalting something. The young hunter slowly stepped forward towards the statue while disregarding the dissuasion of Kim. He regulated his breathing while looking up at the god statue before he took a large gulp of air. I come to you, Lord. His clear voice began reverberating within the chamber. Renew my faith once more. Bless me with your grace, Lord. The statue stopped its march in front of the singing hunter. Oh! Oh! Hunters began gasping out in elation. The god statue didn't move from the spot as if it was absorbed by the singing. All the other noises in the room vanished. Only the young man's voice could be heard in the chamber's interior. The young hunter was encouraged by this and carried on. All the weakness found in me. Through your love, I shall overcome. Among the hunters, only Jin-Woo was shuddering from this ominous sensation filling him up. This is wrong. Jin-Woo swallowed up his words several times. The chamber featured its own set of rules. But the young hunter was exalting the god statue with the rule of Christianity, not with the rules of this chamber. Thankfully, the statue wasn't moving, but could singing let him qualify as upholding the rules? Jin-Woo shook his head. The only reason why he didn't say anything was solely because he couldn't think of a better way to stop the god statue himself. It was right then. Thud! The weighty noise reverberated throughout the chamber. Kekiyahak! The female hunter screamed at the top of her lungs. When the stone statue lifted its leg up, bloody mess of what used to be the young hunter could be found on the ground as well as on the bottom of its foot. Other hunters began screaming in panic and shock, too. Ah! Yuak! The face of the statue, emotionless until then, was now crumpled in pure rage. It's angry. Run away. Hunters dispersed away from the statue in a hurry. Unfortunately for the female hunter, she lost her reasoning and stood on the spot while screaming loudly after personally witnessing the death of the young male hunter. Kayachk. D***mn. Jin-Woo was running away while carrying Ju-Hui in his arms, but he turned around so he could go and help that woman out. But then, Seong stopped the youth. But, juicy. It's too late. As if slapping a fly down, the god statue slammed its palm down at the female hunter. Slam! Cook! Jin-Woo inadvertently shifted his gaze away. It was a truly gruesome sight and he couldn't bear to watch it unfold. There is no time to waste like this. Are you planning to let this girl die, too? Seong's words sobered Jin-Woo up in an instant. It was as he said. Thud. You walk. Thud. Thud. Help me. The statue was not walking around anymore. No, it was actually running around and stepping on the humans it found nearby. Whenever the thing stepped on the ground, the entire chamber shook around, hard. Thud. Thud. Jin-Woo gritted his teeth and began running again. Ju-Hui squeezed her eyes shut and held onto him for her dear life. Let's split up. Yes. Thinking that moving around together was dangerous, Jin-Woo and Seong ran in separate directions. Jin-Woo made sure to run towards the furthest corner from the frenzied god statue. However, there was another hunter who had arrived there before he did. It was Mr. Park. Park was running with everything he had. Tears formed on the edges of his eyes when he recalled his family. Sob. Back home, a son who resembled him so much and a wife pregnant with their second child was waiting for him. He couldn't die here, not like this. Perhaps because he ran with everything he had, he was able to run the furthest away from the statue out of everyone here. Pant, pant. As Park tried to control his heavy breathing in the corner, his friend Kim urgently shouted at him. Mr. Park. Park raised his head after hearing the familiar voice. Yeah? Kim pointed at the spot behind Park and cried out. You're back. Look behind you. It was then, something sharp gleamed coldly behind Mr. Park. Slice. Park was sliced in half from the top of his head right down to his groin. His cleanly cut two halves fell to the ground. Park. The stone statue that killed Park with its greatsword returned to its position as if nothing had happened, exactly like how the doorkeeper did before. Kim began tearing up after witnessing this scene. You sons of B** cheese. Thud. Thud. Behind him, the humongous god statue was stepping on and killing humans one at the time, and if you ran towards the corner in order to avoid it, then the stone statues located there would start attacking you. You-wah. My arm. My arm. The interior of the chamber swiftly fell into chaos. Heek, heek. Cold sweat dripped down from Jin-Woo's forehead. His legs were getting heavier. His breathing was getting rougher and rougher. However, his head was filled with only one chain of thought. Exalt the god. Exalt the god. Exalt the god. The words of the second law circulated in his brain nonstop. The key to unraveling this mystery definitely existed within this chamber. Something within this chamber that they could use. However, when the hunters first entered this place, they had searched every nook and cranny, but didn't find a single contraption nor things that might be some kind of tools. No, back then or now, the only things here that can move are the stone statues. It was then. A thought raced past Jin-Woo's brain just then. Only things moving in here are the statues? D***M in it. Jin-Woo's eyes widened. Why haven't I thought of that before? If the only things that could move were the stone statues, then the only thing he could use had to be them, too. These statues activated when humans got near them, meaning he had to take advantage of this rule. What if? Even though he was running short of breath, Jin-Woo roared out loud enough to shake the entire chamber. Run towards the statues holding musical instruments. Chapter 4 Fin. Chapter 5. Chapter 5, Chapter 5. All the hunters still alive heard Jin-Woo's voice. Instruments? A ray of hope found its way into the eyes of the hunters. Quite different to back when he told them to kowtow, everyone moved unbelievably quickly. If Jin-Woo was wrong about this, then as soon as arriving near one, they would be killed by the stone statues holding the musical instruments. However, no one here questioned Jin-Woo's words. Seong was the first one to arrive in front of a statue carrying a musical instrument. Seong controlled his heavy breathing and raised his head to look at the statue. And as if it was a lie, the fingers of the statue moved and strummed on the harp. Cling, clang. A beautiful melody flowed out. It's working. Hurry to the statues with instruments. Hunters ran towards the nearest correct statues in hurried footsteps. The statue with a trumpet began blowing it triumphantly, one with a flute began playing with it, the one holding the lyre strummed on its strings. Heek, heek, heek. While sensing the approach of his physical limit, Kim somehow arrived in front of the statue that held a bazooka and plopped down to the ground. TL, I don't know what this bazooka could be. TL, this is from the raw. ED, probably either a bazooka or a bouzouki, both from the 1900s. Tiring, tring. As soon as the statue began playing the instrument, the god statue stopped chasing after Kim. He must have been overcome with emotions, because Kim then began shedding tears while he stayed down on his knees. Sob. Sob. Meanwhile, the god statue turned around. The creature searched around and soon enough, found its next prey. God D***M in it. Jin-Woo spat out a cuss as his gaze met the god statues. He then began running hard, so hard that his heart might explode. His back was already soaked through in sweat. Why? Why isn't it working? Jin-Woo's resentful glare landed on the stone statue in front of him. The statue holding a drum showed no signs of moving at all. Thud. 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 The god statue closed in with frightening speed. He was practically on the other side of the chamber from the D***MN thing, yet the distance between the two shortened in no time at all. Jin-Woo swallowed down his saliva. Could it be that the statue won't play because there are two people here? Me and Miss Ju-Hui? He couldn't think of anything else. Why? Because other statues were playing music just fine as soon as a hunter stood in front of it. There is no time to think anymore. Jin-Woo put Ju-Hui down and got ready to run to somewhere else. Mr. Jin-Woo. Still terrified out of her mind, Ju-Hui clung onto Jin-Woo's sleeve. Jin-Woo calmly whispered in her ear. We'll both die if we stay together. Tears began forming on Ju-Hui's eyes. Her fingers trembled as they held onto his clothes. Unfortunately, there was no time to explain to her in detail. Jin-Woo carefully pried her hand away and began running in the opposite direction as hard as he could. Boom, boom, boom. When he glanced back, the statue behind Ju-Hui began beating its drum in a slow but steady rhythm. What a relief! There was only one thing remaining now, to run to the other statue without getting killed. Only Jin-Woo hadn't received the protection of the music-playing statues. Quite obviously, the rage of the god statue was solely directed to Jin-Woo and him alone. Jin-Woo did his best to avoid the foot of the thing that rivaled a building in size and crossed the room in a hurry. Thud. Thud. He fell and rolled around, but still, he somehow managed to avoid getting flattened by the god statue's foot. Heek, heek. He might only have been a rank E, but he was still a close combat type hunter, so his physique came in handy in situations like this. Just a little bit further. A bit more. Jin-Woo kept an eye out on the god statue's movements and ran even harder. His speed increased. And when the distance remaining between him and the stone statue was mere a dozen feet. No, that's the wrong one. Mr. Seong cried out to him. Jin-Woo had been paying attention to the god statue only. He was stunned by the shout and hurriedly turned his head to take a look at his front. Ah! It's not a statue with an instrument? He belatedly realized that the thing that looked like a musical instrument from afar was actually a shield, instead. And sure enough, the statue mercilessly stabbed down with its shield. Heek! Jin-Woo hurriedly threw himself to the side. Kayak! Ju-Hui screamed. Jin-Woo rolled on the ground, and when he came to a stop, he raised his head to see the god statue standing right in front of his nose. It's one thing after another. His forehead must have been torn from him rolling on the ground, because blood was flowing down and blurred his vision. His view was restricted and he couldn't look too far away. Jin-Woo quickly searched around his vicinity. An instrument. An instrument. However, no matter how hard he looked, he couldn't see a single statue holding an instrument nearby. Meanwhile, the god statue raised its leg over Jin-Woo's position. Heek. Thud. Jin-Woo threw himself again and somehow avoided the foot of the statue again. But he had reached his limit. A powerful dizziness was assaulting him and for some reason, he couldn't even balance himself. Please. If there was a real god, he thought that he'd start praying right about now. It was then, Jin-Woo spotted a stone statue that held neither a weapon or a musical instrument. Is that? Jin-Woo decided to bet everything on that statue. He crawled on the ground and arrived in front of the statue in question. He then managed to flip his body around and lie down on the ground so he could see the god statue. He no longer had any energy to move. Pant, pant. Jin-Woo stared at the approaching god statue and continued to roughly breathe in and out. The expression of the god statue was far more contorted compared to before, as if it got infuriated further by Jin-Woo's continued evasion. The god statue now stopped in front of Jin-Woo. Seeing a creature as big as a high-rise blocking his entire view, Jin-Woo felt like he couldn't breathe anymore. Pant, pant. Did it think he was nothing more than a cornered rat? The god statue simply looked down at him and didn't do anything else. This is the end. Jin-Woo sensed his own unavoidable death approaching closer after looking straight into the eyes of the god statue. However, woo woo woo. From somewhere behind him, a beautiful and otherworldly voice came out. Jin-Woo turned his head around to see what was going on. Woo woo, woo woo woo. The lips of the stone statue holding a book moved, and whenever they did, a divine song flowed out and filled the interior of the massive chamber. Woo woo woo, woo. The crumpled expression of the god statue slowly reverted back to the emotionless state. Soon, all those horrifyingly contorted facial muscles of the statue smoothed out. When the song of the stone statues came to its eventual end, the god statue turned around. Then, just how other stone statues had done until now, it returned to its throne and settled down as if things that happened until now were nothing but a lie. Thud. The noise of the god statue sitting down on the throne resounded throughout the chamber. Pant, pant. Barely made it. A thin smile formed on Jin-Woo's lips. Meanwhile, Ju-Hui began running from her position at the far end of the chamber. Mr. Jin-Woo. She ran with all her might and knelt down next to him as tears streamed down on her face. What can I do? What am I supposed to? She summoned all of her magical energy and activated her healing magic. However, nothing seemed to improve. The dispersed hunters gathered around Jin-Woo one by one. Every single one of them carried a dark expression. What? Mr. Jin-Woo. Even then, only Ju-Hui was crying in sorrow. Why was everyone acting like this? Jin-Woo's lips bobbled up and down. He wanted to ask what was going on, but he couldn't really summon forth his own voice. Sensing that he had no choice, he tried to prop himself up. Then, he noticed the pool of blood around his lower torso. Only then did he belatedly realize the change to his body. Ah! Below his right knee was gone. Jin-Woo's eyes reflexively shifted toward the stone statue holding the shield. He then saw the trail of blood clearly visible on the end of the shield. And the rest of his right leg was just below that. Drip! Drip! Drops of blood started falling from Ju-Hui's nose. That was the sign of her reaching the limits of her physical stamina. The healing magic from a rank B healer was unable to recover missing limbs. Meaning, what she was doing was basically pouring water into a broken jug. her stamina rapidly bottomed out in the end. It's fine now. Miss Ju-Hui. You can stop. I'm going to heal you. I'll fix you as good as new. Hunters stared at the two of them while forming miserable expressions. Out of the 17 who initially entered this chamber, only 6 remained now. And from this group of 6, 2 of them had suffered horrible, grievous wounds. Seong had lost his arm, while Jin-Woo lost his leg. They might have survived, but none of them felt like rejoicing at the moment. It was then, yet another strange noise rocked the chamber. Rumble. The middle of the temple, where that strange magic formation could be found, suddenly rose up above the ground. Jin-Woo inwardly thought that it had finally come. Prove your piety, is it? He already had a rough idea as to what those words could mean. Part 5, Final Trial. The circular magic formation in the center of the temple began rising up noisily and only stopped after reaching the height of a couple of steps. An altar. Hunters displayed alert reactions as soon as Jin-Woo muttered out. An altar. He just said it's an altar. The person who had rescued them from the 2 preceding crises was not some high-ranked hunter, but ranky Jin-Woo, who used to be the butt of their jokes most of the time. If it weren't for Mr. Seong, all of us would have been. Hunters were thinking this exact same thought. Under the current circumstances, Jin-Woo's words were their lifeline. And now, that Jin-Woo had muttered out a word altar. Kim always was quick on the uptake, and so, he caught on to the meaning first before anyone else had the chance to do so. I get it now. I see how it is. Kim then unsheathed the sword hanging on his hips. Now originally, this weapon would be used to cut various monsters down. But for now, it'd have to be utilized for a different purpose altogether. Even if I'm a dumb starred, I can more or less get what you're trying to say here. Hunters nervously swallowed their saliva while looking at the sharp, coldly gleaming blade. Oh aye, Mr. Kim. Why are you pulling your sword out like that? Why don't we talk about this first? Let's talk first. The highest-ranked member among the group, Rank C Hunter Seong, was heavily injured, meaning there was no one here that could potentially stop Kim, who boasted a pretty powerful set of skills himself even within the D rank. Kim pointed towards the altar with his sword. The final law, prove your piety. And there's an altar appearing out of nowhere in the middle of this place. Kim's gaze then shifted to Jin-Woo. So, aren't we supposed to offer up a sacrifice? Mr. Seong? Jin-Woo slowly nodded his head. That was what the youth thought as well. One of the surviving 6 had to act as a sacrifice. That's what the last law probably meant. Jin-Woo came to this conclusion. He sensed more disturbance and raised his head, and realized that the eyes of Mr. Kim as he approached closer did not look friendly at all. A long sweat drop glided down Jin-Woo's forehead. Ah, juicy. What? You, young man, don't say anything and be still. Kim angrily shouted out and pointed his sword at Mr. Seong, who was squatting next to Jin-Woo in order to check out the youth's condition. Just who was it that dragged us to this place? Wasn't it this guy? Yes, it was Mr. Seong. So, don't you think it's only right for Mr. Seong to take the ultimate responsibility? Ah, juicy. Jin-Woo tried to get up in a fit of anger, but then, Seong's hand that resembled the bark of an aged tree stopped the youth. Jin-Woo looked at Seong in disbelief. Seong wordlessly shook his head. His eyes were pleading with Jin-Woo, asking the youth to not say anything else. Of course, Jin-Woo had lots of things to say, but he kept them down for now. Seong slowly raised his body up. What Mr. Kim said is right. I should take the blame for today. Old man, I guess we are now finally on the same page. Kim used the tip of his sword to point towards the altar. If you get it now, then let's get going already. Over 10 people died here because of you, old man. Chapter 5 Fin. Chapter 6. Chapter 6, Chapter 6. One of the dead hunters today happened to be Mr. Park, a personal friend to Mr. Kim. Exploring the dual dungeon was decided with the vote involving everyone, but Kim had already erased that memory off his head after losing much of his reasoning. Mr. Seong spoke to Kim. "I'd like to walk on my own volition, so can you put the sword away?" Of course, Kim refused right away. "How can I trust you, old man? Stop wasting time and start moving already." Seong sighed softly under his breath and walked towards the altar. Kim pointed his sword at the older man's back and followed on afterwards. Jin-Woo bit his lower lip while watching the two men walk away. This isn't the fault of Mr. Seong. More than half of the group agreed to do it together. Just because things had gone south, blaming Seong for everything was simply too cowardly, he thought. But, Jin-Woo unfortunately did not possess enough strength to stop Kim here. Kim, thought to be one of the best among the rank D, and Seong Jin-Woo, easily the worst of the rank E. The difference in their strengths was all too clear for him to see. Not only that, Jin-Woo had even lost a leg. If he tried to confront Kim as he was now, there was a chance that him and even Ju-Hui, who had been focusing solely on healing him, could meet with disaster. D***MN. Jin-Woo squeezed his eyes shut. He never hated his own powerlessness as much as he did today. In the meantime, Seong had stepped up on the raised altar. Suddenly, a red flame lit up near the outer perimeter of the altar as soon as he did. Everyone nervously swallowed their saliva and observed the unfolding situation carefully. However, nothing else happened. Just a single flame came to life, and that was it. They waited for a while, but there was no visible change at all. Not only Kim, but everyone else got flustered by this situation. Kim quickly turned his head and spoke to Jin-Woo. "Look here, Mr. Seong. This wasn't it?" Jin-Woo also shook his head. "Even I." He too thought that once a person chosen as the sacrifice stepped up on the altar, the third law of prove one's piety would be completed. It's not about offering up a sacrifice? If so, then it was not necessarily bad news. If the law was not about sacrifices, then it meant Mr. Seong could still saved. Jin-Woo's expression brightened somewhat. He sweated bucket loads as he tried to stand up, and two hunters nearby quickly lent their assistance. "Please take me closer to the altar so I can study it. Mr. Jin-Woo, your injuries are." Ju-Hui also got up from her spot to follow after Jin-Woo. Her complexion was rather pale after expending too much of her magical energy. But because she had worked so hard, Jin-Woo's blood loss had been temporarily halted and the pain he felt was reduced to a barely noticeable degree. "I gotta hurry up." The current condition of Ju-Hui, Kim's boiling rage, Seong's injuries, and the frightened hunters, he didn't have a lot of time here. Jin-Woo eventually arrived at the altar with the help from other hunters. "Let's climb up on the altar." The two hunters flinched from his statement, but they trusted Jin-Woo and stepped up. Then, 3 more flames lit up. Right away, Jin-Woo's eyes gleamed brightly. "It's the same number as the people on the altar." Mr. Seong and Jin-Woo, plus 2 others who helped the youth, indeed, the flames lit up to match the number of people standing on the altar. And it kind of looked like that these 4 flames were drawing a circle outside the altar. If I take into consideration the space between the flames, 2 more will complete the circle. It seemed that all the remaining people had to climb up on the altar for something, anything, to get started. Jin-Woo turned his head to ask Seong. "If we wait here, do you think other hunters will come to rescue us?" Seong shook his head. "Today is the 7th day since the gate showed up. These things will start moving first before the help arrives. Because it's a gate rank D, I see that it's been left alone for far too long." "Well, that's how the association operates, isn't it? A gate would open up fully after the 7th day. The real meaning of a raid was to kill the dungeon's boss monster and therefore close the gate before that happened. When failing to do so, the monsters trapped in the dungeons would be set free from the dungeon and they would be able to roam the outside world." Jin-Woo looked behind him. The giant god statue was still looking down on them with an overbearing, arrogant expression from its throne. If that thing manages to go outside, then the ensuing chaos would be unimaginable. Of course, before that happened, hunters coming to this chamber to rescue them would all be killed by the statues first. He was now sure of the fact that they could not wait here forever. Jin-Woo called out to Ju-Wee and Kim. "Both of you, climb up." Ju-Wee stepped up on the altar first. The hesitant Kim also followed suit soon afterwards. 2 more flames lit up and the circle was now complete. And then hunters were grandly stunned by what happened next. What the hell? What's going on here? As Jin-Woo had suspected, yet another change took place. It's coming. From the outermost edge of the altar, small blue flames floated upwards and began drawing a circle of their own as well. There looked to be at least 30 of these blue flames, placed real tightly next to each other. 34. 35, 36. Jin-Woo quickly counted them all as the blue flames completed the circle and he realized that there were 36 of them. The 6 red flames that lit up to match the number of people. And the 36 blue flames that appeared outside them. What could be the significance behind that number? It was then. Clang! Without a warning, the resolutely shut door suddenly opened up wide. Hunters reflexively flinched. Yook! They all wanted so bad to run towards the wide-open doorway, but having seen the final moments of the choirboy hunter, they found it hard to take the first step. If one tried to be the first, just who knew what might happen to them? Everyone's gaze fixed on Jin-Woo as if to demand an answer from him. However, Jin-Woo's lips remained tightly shut. He couldn't come up with a guess at the moment. He didn't know whether the open door was a trap, or they were now allowed to go out after they upheld the final law successfully. Too bad for him. Just as everyone was looking at Jin-Woo, a horrifying noise filled up the entire chamber. Creak! Cree-yuck! The heads of all 6 hunters quickly snapped around to look. What was that? It's coming closer. Those D*MN things are all moving now. Hunters' breathing quickened in an instant. The stone statues that had only moved when a person got near were now several steps closer to the group. Jin-Woo only needed a short moment to figure out what happened, of course. No, the statues didn't move. It's the plinths below them that moved. That horrifying screech from earlier on most likely came from the plinths beneath the statues grating against the stone floor. They are not moving anymore? Kim wiped the droplets of sweat on his forehead as he spoke. While everyone was still staring at the statues, Jin-Woo's focus was on the blue flames. They had been going out one by one, and 3 of them had flickered out of existence already. Kree-yuck! Hearing that screech, someone cried out. Well, what was that? Where did it come from? Jin-Woo quickly raised his head. The noise had come from his general direction. The stone statues facing him had moved a little bit closer. Why only my side? Was it because he looked at somewhere else briefly? In order to confirm, Jin-Woo closed his eyes. The noise resounded out again. Kree-yuck! As soon as he opened his eyes, the noise stopped. What the F***ck is going on here? What are we supposed to do about this? Jin-Woo quickly shouted at others. Don't take your eyes off the statues, no matter what. When he thought about it, he realized that the statues first began moving closer to the group when others were busy looking at him. They creep closer when we are not looking at them. It was right then, another blue flame disappeared. However, there was still no discernible change to either the group or the statues. Could it be? Cautiously raising his arm, Jin-Woo did his best not to take his eyes off the statues while checking the time with his wristwatch. As I thought. At an interval of 1 minute, a blue flame was being extinguished. The blue flames are the timer. It was quite likely that one of the main points of the third law was to stay within the altar until all 36 blue flames died out. In other words, as long as everyone was keeping close watch on the statues, they'd be safe. It was quite possible that no one had to die at this final huddle. Wanting to be more accurate about the remaining time, Jin-Woo began recounting the number of blue flames once more. There are 30 remaining. They only needed to endure 30 more minutes. Unfortunately, Jin-Woo made a huge mistake, just then. While he was counting the number of blue flames, his eyes wandered away for a brief moment, and that resulted in the statues creeping closer. Kree-kak. You-wawa. The man standing on the opposite side screamed and ran towards the door. He simply couldn't hold on any longer as the horrifying screeching noise coming from his back frightened him so much. As soon as he left the altar, one of the red flames disappeared. No! Jin-Woo cried out urgently. However, the man running as if he had gone crazy escaped through the open doorway without meeting a grisly fate, which took everyone by surprise. What the hell? Mr. Seong. What's going on? That guy made it out alive. Kim shouted out, flustered. Jin-Woo was standing with his back to the doorway so he couldn't really tell what was going on. Did something change? The door. The door has closed just a little. The door's closing? No. After that guy left, the door moved a little bit, but then stopped. Jin-Woo then recalled one of the red flames disappearing as soon as that man left the altar. God d******. He immediately felt his heart go cold. One of the questions that he couldn't quite figure out until now as he stood on top of this altar finally had an answer. How could standing on an altar be a proof of one's piety? Indeed, he now had the answer to this quandary. And that answer was probably the worst one for Jin-Woo, who had only one leg now and needed others' help just to keep his balance. That open doorway was a trap. A false hope right in front of one's eyes. If people saw the open door and climbed off the altar at the same time, the red flames would have gone out and the doorway would be closed shut again. And then, the banquet of raining blood and screams would inevitably follow next. On the other hand, the altar was the proverbial promised land. If each one did what they had to do in their positions until the timer ran out, then their survival would be guaranteed. So, it was between the false hope right in front of one's eyes, or the unseen promise of salvation. The third law was a test to see if one could defend one's position without falling into the sweet temptation over yonder while constantly being under the encroaching threat of death. However, two flies in the ointment happened in this situation. The first one was Jin-Woo. Originally, the remaining group of people would have ran straight for the open door, but they stopped first to listen to what Jin-Woo had to say, and that helped them avoid the trap being sprung in the first place. We got lucky there. Indeed, that had to be the only explanation. Such a thing was only possible because Jin-Woo managed to figure out the first two laws all by himself and earned the trust of others. Unfortunately for him, the second fly also happened, something he didn't foresee. A deserter had appeared among their midst. How would human beings react when there was a hope of survival right in front of their eyes? It was way too obvious. The man helping Jin-Woo up abandoned the youth and bolted as well. Seong hurriedly reached out and propped Jin-Woo up from his back. Poof! When that man left the altar, yet another red flame disappeared, and as expected, the door closed a little bit more. Creak! Ha! Ah! Kim dazedly pointed at the second deserter, but just like the first person to abandon them, he too safely escaped past the doorway. Jin-Woo confirmed the number of remaining red flames and shouted out. We must not move. Any more than this, then it'll be the end. Chapter 6 Fin. Chapter 7. Chapter 7, Chapter 7. Front, back, left, and right. In order to secure all four directions, 4 people were the bare minimum required. Jin-Woo himself, Ju-Hui, Mr. Seong, and finally, Mr. Kim. A single person leaving now would result in a gap within the field of vision. Kim wiped the sweat off his forehead and asked urgently. Mr. Seong, just what is going on here? Explain it to me properly. We'll make it as long as we wait here. Only until all the blue flames are extinguished. Jin-Woo spat out everything he had deduced so far. Kim nodded his head as his ears perked up. Jin-Woo quickly ended his explanation and added one more thing at the end. Remember, everyone here can get out of here alive. The laws of this chamber always left open a path for one's survival. The final law would not deviate from that. Jin-Woo was certain of no one else needing to die as long as the remaining people trusted each other. Too bad, Kim's thoughts were quite different from the youth's. The older hunter asked hesitantly. Look here, Mr. Seong, you could be right on this one, but could the door close shut instead when the timer runs out? Jin-Woo couldn't answer that one. He came to his conclusion after considering several variables, but until the result was in, he couldn't be 100% certain of anything. However, what Kim wanted was a definite assurance. Rather than an uncertain promise of everyone's survival, the definite survival of his own self had proved to be far more alluring in the end. I'm sorry about this, but I don't think I can stay here anymore. Juicy. Sorry. With that parting word, Kim stepped down from the altar. He then ignored Jin-Woo's urgent calling and ran towards the door. He stopped and looked for a brief moment just outside the door, but Kim did not step back inside the chamber again. Grit. Jin-Woo gritted his teeth. God d*****m it. He had saved the lives of others, but what he got in return was definitely not something like gratefulness or friendship. His entire body shuddered from the pain of betrayal. Just as he suspected, as soon as Kim had abandoned them, a gap within the surveillance had been created. It was impossible for 3 people to guard all 4 directions. And so, the statues positioned in the blind spots began creeping closer to the altar. Kree-e-kuk. Kree-hak. The encirclement of the stone statue was gradually tightening. Seong took a look around and then spoke to Jin-Woo and Ju-Wee. Both of you, you should leave now. His voice was full of resignation. Jin-Woo looked at the old man. But, juicy. Just as Kim had said, I was the one who dragged us all in here. If someone has to remain behind, then it'd be only right that I'm the one. But, still. You two with a better future ahead of you should be the ones to survive today. Seong began smiling, then. He was thinking of these 2 young people's hearts as they would have to abandon him here. Jin-Woo helplessly nodded his head. He was uncomfortable about this whole thing, but there was no time left to argue back and forth who should remain in here. Seong then tried to ask Ju-Wee to take care of Jin-Woo. Miss Ju-Wee, can you help out Mr. Seong here for a bit? Why yes. However, just as she was about to prop him up, Ju-Wee plopped down to the floor. Ju-Wee tried to get up, but then, tears began forming around the edges of her eyes. My legs. I can't move my legs. Both the expressions of Jin-Woo and Mr. Seong hardened in an instant. Ju-Wee's current physical condition did look terrible even from a casual glance. Her lips were in the shade of pale blue, while her entire body continued to tremble ever so imperceptibly. She was suffering from the side effects of overusing her magic energy when she was already at her physical limit. Because she tried to heal my leg. Jin-Woo felt his chest tighten and couldn't say anything. However, they really didn't have any time left now. Kree-e-ek. The stone statues were relentlessly approaching them without a moment of rest even now. Jin-Woo shoved Seong's hand away and plopped down to the ground himself. Seeing this, Seong's eyes grew wider. Why, young man? Jin-Woo spoke up with a determined expression on his face. Juicy, please take Ju-Wee and get out of this place. I told you, I'll be the one staying behind. In that case, who's going to help Ju-Wee? It was pretty much impossible for him to take Jin-Woo, who couldn't even stand properly, and leave through the door within the time limit. Of course. There was the other choice of abandoning Jin-Woo behind, as well. However, Jin-Woo had saved his life several times already, and the only reason why she was in this state was because she tried to help him with all her might. He definitely did not want to suffer the guilty conscience of abandoning such a person behind in this godforsaken place. There is no time left. Please leave now. Seong's expression remained hardened as he helped Jin-Woo up. She shook her head desperately while tears streamed down on her face. No, you can't. Mr. Jin-Woo can still survive, you know? Let me. I promised to buy you a dinner, didn't I? Jin-Woo pulled out the Rank-E magic crystal from his pocket and placed it in her hand. Please, use this and enjoy one on me. When I get out of here, I'll be coming around to collect the change, you see. A smile formed on Jin-Woo's face, prompting Jin-Woo to cry out in anger. How can you crack a joke in this situation, Mr. Jin-Woo? It was at this moment that Jin-Woo signaled to Mr. Seong with a nod. The older man then lightly chopped on the back of Jin-Woo's neck. Ah! With that, Jin-Woo lost her consciousness. Seong picked up the unconscious girl and placed her over his shoulder. I'm really sorry about this. This is my choice, so it's fine. Mr. Seong bowed his head to Jin-Woo. With that goodbye, Seong quickly left the altar. Kree-hak. Kree-ee-eok. During the time the three of them were chatting, the statues had arrived at the proverbial stone's throw away. Jin-Woo got on his knees and took several deep breaths. Fu-woo. Fu-woo. He spotted the sword Kim had left behind next to him. So, he reached out and picked it up. Now that it had come down to this, I'll take at least one down with me. When he looked behind him, Jin-Woo saw Mr. Seong safely leaving through the doorway with unconscious Jin-Woo still perched upon his shoulder. What a relief that was. Only I'll die here now. He wasn't doing this because of some noble determination to sacrifice himself or anything like that. No, there certainly was an element of him calculating the best possible outcome in his decision. Even if he survived and got out of here today, he would have to live as a cripple for the rest of his life. Obviously, carrying on as a hunter would be impossible, then. And it was also questionable whether he'd be able to live normally as well. He was only a high school graduate, and since he didn't have any discernible job skills, he simply didn't have too many options left to put food on the table. Mom's hospital fees, and my sister's school fees, too. If that were the case, then he might as well make sure his family would receive a better compensation from the association, even if it was just a single cent more. Was the compensation paid out to the family members 300 million won or 400, when one dies during a raid? TL, between $267,000 and $356,000. That was a huge amount for a worthless life of a Rank-E hunter. Kree-hak. Creak. Clang. Finally, the statues arrived. The first one to arrive climbed up on the altar. Jin-Woo glared at it and lifted the sword up. Come. Unfortunately, the expected attack didn't come from the front, but his back. Stab. A long spear penetrated into Jin-Woo's back and exited out of his chest. Kiak. Jin-Woo spat out a mouthful of blood. An unimaginable amount of pain rushed in like a tsunami wave. If you were stabbed a couple of inches higher, you'd have a hole in your heart by now. Jin-Woo's nagging he heard only a few hours ago slipped past his mind like a scene from a revolving lantern. You-Uawak. The stone statue lifted up the spear. Jin-Woo was lifted up along into the air, still pierced through by that spear. He only got to struggle for a brief moment, though, because the statue slammed him down on the altar. Slam. Kiak. Sounds of bones breaking could be heard from all corners of his body. He shrunk away from the intense pain. You. As he began trembling, the stone statues slowly surrounded him. They formed an encirclement around him. Jin-Woo raised his head and glared at them, his entire being shuddering nonstop. I don't want to die like this. Now that he was facing his final moments, tears pooled on his eyes. He recalled the faces of his family. He even recalled the face of Ju-Wee, her face full of anxiety and worry for his safety. I don't want to die. He didn't want to end his short 24 years of life in this place. Step. The stone statue wielding a sword took a step closer without a hint of emotion. Then, it raised its sword up high. Even though he was shaking hard, Jin-Woo did not avert his gaze away from this ****. Finally, the statue's sword slashed down. Swyish. Only if I had one more chance. Jin-Woo's eyes shot open wider. It happened then. SFX for the statue's movements suddenly stopping. As if someone had pressed the pause button, the scarily fast-moving sword suddenly stopped in mid-air. No, that wasn't actually correct, it hadn't stopped at all. It simply had slowed down so much that he ended up thinking that way. 1 millimeter in 1 minute? It was very slow, but the sword was still definitely coming down. Well, what's going on here? Jin-Woo couldn't hide his astonishment. It was then, a voice of a female he had never heard of before resounded within his head. Completion requirements for the secret quest, the courage of the powerless has been met. Secret quest? Completion requirements were met? Jin-Woo couldn't understand any of that. No, hang on a minute. Besides all that, where did that voice come from? Too bad for him, the voice ignored Jin-Woo's questions and continued on regardless. You have acquired the rights to become a player. Will you accept? He had acquired a right? Accept what, exactly? Sounds like I'll be given something. He grew up dirt poor since his childhood, so he had never refused freebies until now. However, that was a story for when he was still alive. What use was there for free stuff when he was dead? When Jin-Woo hesitated and didn't answer, the voice in his head asked again as if to urge him on. There is not enough time left for you to make your decision. Your heart will cease functioning precisely 0.02 seconds after you refuse to accept. Will you accept? He couldn't tell whether he was hallucinating or not, but he still got to figure out that he was only a moment away from dying for good. He finally spotted countless other weapons headed in his direction, beside the D***MN sword. That was how. Now that the things had devolved to such a degree, he might as well. If you're giving it to me, then just give it to me already. There was no need to utter anything out at all. He simply thought about it in his head. Even then, the voice of the female replied to him immediately. Congratulations on becoming a player. Flash. A blinding light suddenly wrapped around Jin-Woo's body, and at the same time, he lost his consciousness. Part 6, Penalty. He opened his eyes. He saw a white ceiling, and his nose stung from the odor of disinfectants. He also felt the sensation of a hard mattress against his back. Jin-Woo immediately recognized where he was. A hospital? Ever since he met the rank B healer, Ju-Wee, the frequency of him staying in one had decreased somewhat, but still, hospitals were familiar places for Jin-Woo, just as he'd be with a local convenience store. So much so that, he even heard a rumor of there being a special seat reserved for himself at the Hunter's Hospital, too. Jin-Woo raised his upper torso up. He then placed his hand on his chest and felt the vibrations coming from there. His heart was beating without a problem. I survived? It wasn't only that, though. Unlike before, his entire being felt light and airy. He'd be feeling heavy-headed and fatigued whenever he woke up from a hospital bed. But, it was a different story now. No, it was as if he had woken up in his own bed after a night of a good rest. What's going on? This shouldn't have been possible when he thought back to the moments before he lost his consciousness. A sword was falling on his head right before his eyes. Even if he got lucky and the sword missed, he was still surrounded by countless scary enemies. Those D*MN things were strong enough to give the assault team formed solely from the rank S hunters a genuinely hard time. But, I came out of that situation alive? Was he dreaming things, then? Fortunately, there was a good way of confirming it for himself. Jin-Woo pulled away the blanket covering him. If that situation had been real, then his leg would still be gone, and if he had been dreaming, then his leg would be. You've finally woken up. Chapter 7 Fin. Chapter 8. Chapter 8. Chapter 8. Jin-Woo was surprised by the weighty voice coming from the corner of the hospital room, and hurriedly turned his head to look. I apologize if we took you by surprise. Unfortunately, we are unable to wait any longer. Two men kid out in black business suits approached Jin-Woo's bed. The youth tilted his head and asked them, "Who are you?" He had never seen these two's faces before. One of them, with the close-cropped hair like a soldier and wearing a pair of sunglasses, presented him with a business card. "This is who we are." Jin-Woo received the business card and read what was written on it. Woo Jin-cheol, the section chief of the Monitoring Division, the Korean Hunters Association. The Monitoring Division was the only department in the Hunters Association with many strong hunters in their payroll. Well, since this department was tasked with managing the country's hunters, so, quite obviously, they would employ many high-class hunters to facilitate that purpose. What does the Monitoring Division want from me? Woo Jin-cheol dragged a chair closer to the bed and sat down. The other man, who must have been his subordinate, stood behind him. The unspoken pressure emanating from the two buff guys staring down in close vicinity was quite heavy. The story they conveyed was rather surprising, though. I was unconscious for 4 days? By any chance, do you remember what happened before you blacked out? Yes, I do. Please tell us everything you can remember. Jin-Woo told them everything truthfully, minus the strange hallucinatory words he heard before he lost his consciousness. And that's when you lost your consciousness. Is that all? Yes. I opened my eyes next, and I'm in a hospital. Woo Jin-cheol and his lackey exchanged meaningful glances. For some reason, they seemed to be troubled by Jin-Woo's lack of knowledge. Actually, Jin-Woo was the one who wanted to find out what happened the most in this room. Just how did I get to this hospital? Did a large guild participate and kill those D*MN things? Well, actually. Woo Jin-cheol awkwardly opened his mouth. By the time the agents of the Monitoring Division and the White Tiger Guild arrived at the scene after being briefed by the survivors. The White Tiger Guild was a supermassive guild and also one of the top 5 in the country. The association had recognized the danger, hence they requested the aid of such a huge guild as the White Tiger Guild in the first place. Just what did happen back there? Jin-Woo nervously swallowed a dry spit. By the time everything was gone, the only thing to be found within that open space was you, Mr. Seong Jin-Woo. There was not one trace of the god statue nor the stone statues. Come again? Jin-Woo displayed a shocked, disbelieving face. It's hard for us to believe it as well. If there had been any inconsistencies in the testimonies of the survivors, or if we had failed to find the remains of the victims in the chamber, we might have suspected something fishy was going on. Woo Jin-cheol scratched his chin. It had been 6 years since he got ranked as an A and started working for the Monitoring Division. He could confidently say that he had witnessed and experienced pretty much everything during his tenure. However, this kind of situation was a first even for him. He had asked other guilds as well as the associations in other countries, but the end result was nothing worthy to speak about. That was why. So, this is what we've been thinking. Woo Jin-cheol carefully opened his mouth. There were powerful creatures in that chamber, without a doubt. But, they were taken care of by an unknown group, or an unknown person. Because no other worldly beings escaped from the gate before it was closed, you see. They had to consider all the possibilities. Even if the odds were low, they had to confirm them all. The head honchos of the association deliberated, and then deliberated for some more, and finally came up with a theory. Woo Jin-cheol carefully studied Jin-Woo's reactions as he continued on. We suspect that Hunter Seong Jin-Woo might have gone through another awakening. Another awakening. Jin-Woo's eyes shot open wide. Although extremely rare, there had been instances of a human who had awakened his or her abilities as a hunter going through yet another awakening. Often referred to as reawakening, those who undergo this process would normally become extremely powerful compared to before. Originally, once a hunter's rank was assigned at the beginning, it rarely changed. A hunter's abilities were determined the moment one went through an awakening, that was why. However, it was a different story for those going through the reawakening process. Jumping past their own limitations to rise up from, say, rank C to A, or even from B to S, such things had happened before. Woo Jin-cheol nervously swallowed his saliva. Seong Jin-Woo. If he went through a reawakening and became a rank S, no, maybe even exceeding that, then it's possible for him to kill those monsters all by himself. The god statue was said to have melted rank C hunters with nothing but its eyes, according to the survivors. If one were able to kill such a creature even while unconscious, just how powerful one could possibly be? To prepare for this unlikeliest possibility, Woo Jin-cheol labeled this incident as top secret and made sure everyone involved would keep their mouths shut. This was also the reason why Seong Jin-Woo found himself in a hospital room all alone, as well as being looked after by some of the finest medical practitioners in the nation. Woo Jin-cheol's chest began beating real fast. Could Korea finally have a hunter on the level of an international powerhouse? There were less than 10 people in the entire world that could truly be described as a global powerhouse. But, what if Korea were to possess a powerhouse that were said to rival a nuclear warhead in terms of pure firepower? Of course, confirming the truth of the reawakening wasn't difficult at all. Didn't the wise elders once say to make hay while the sun still shines? Woo Jin-cheol signaled to his lackey. Bring it here. Then, the lackey went to the corner of the room and began rummaging through a briefcase placed there. That is. Before Jin-Woo could finish his question, Woo Jin-cheol explained first. It's the device to measure your magic energy. He added that, although this device had been miniaturized, its efficiency or accuracy did not fall short of the actual full-size measuring device located in the Hunters Association. All you have to do is to place your hand on this magic crystal over here. On top of a circular plate, there was a fist-sized magic crystal embedded in the middle. Its color was pitch black, as if it was a black hole that wanted to suck him in. It was one of the highest quality magic crystals that cost as much as 1 billion won, not to mention that could only be found in monsters ranked A or higher. TL, almost $900,000. When Jin-Woo stared at the magic crystal without saying anything, Woo Jin-cheol formed a dignified, serious expression and spoke up. This is a necessary step during our investigation, so please, cooperate with us. Jin-Woo nodded his head. If he indeed had undergone a reawakening, then his life would do a 180 in an instant. And they were going to test it out for him for free, so who was he to refuse? Jin-Woo placed his hand on top of the black crystal and soon enough, warm rays of light oozed out from it. Cold sweat drops formed on the foreheads of Woo Jin-cheol and his lackey. SFX for a beam of light dissipating. Not too long after then, the light surrounding the crystal dissipated. Woo Jin-cheol hurriedly took off his sunglasses and confirmed the numbers. Right away, a small earthquake rocked Woo Jin-cheol's eyes. How can this be? He rechecked the numbers, but it remained the same. How could a person holding a hunter license possess the magic energy value of only 10? When considering the fact that the lowest average value for rank E, the bottom rank, was around 70 to 100, Seong Jin-Woo was no different from a regular person. Is it really a reawakening? If it is, what could be my new rank now? Jin-Woo's hands were soaked in the sweat of anticipation. Seeing the suspicious reactions of the two monitoring division agents, the result must have been somewhat beyond their expectations. Meanwhile, Woo Jin-cheol was comparing the existing data on Jin-Woo with the new measurement. His first measurement returned the value of 12. 4 years later, it's 10. It has decreased by 2, but it is within the margin of error. In other words, the magic energy measuring device was working fine. Instead, it was Seong Jin-Woo's magic energy that happened to be just illogically, nonsensically low. It was a miracle that he had survived until now. Woo Jin-cheol rapidly realized that being here was a waste of time, so he got up from his seat. Let's go. Yes, sir. Woo Jin-cheol and his lackey quickly packed up to leave. Excuse me. Can you tell me what is? Just as Jin-Woo was about to ask, Woo Jin-cheol bowed his head slightly. Thank you for your cooperation. If you remember anything else, please give us a call anytime. As if their rear ends were on fire, two men in black rapidly left the room as soon as they put away the device. The hospital room that felt rather small suddenly became quiet and lonely. Jin-Woo scratched the back of his neck. I guess that was a no, then. Well, if he thought about it, besides him feeling refreshed, there didn't seem to be any change to him at all. Even if he did go through a reawakening, it'd still be difficult for him to kill all those statue B** stars, anyways. Maybe, you might have a chance against them if you were either the ultimate weapon, Hunter Choi Jong-in, or the rank SS Hunter Go Gunhui. Of course, him speculating like this was meaningless, since he had never seen them in action before. There was always a thick veil of secrecy draped over the hunters ranked S. They were more like clouds in the sky to him, actually. He thought up to here and inadvertently raised his head up. And that's when he saw it. Ha! He looked up without thinking, and then saw words floating in the air. You have several unread messages. He closed his eyes and opened them again. You have several unread messages. The words remained floating up there without a single change. He shook his head hard a few times and even rubbed his eyes, but they were still there. Jin-Woo massaged his aching forehead and lowered his head. It hadn't been a long time since I started hearing weird things, but now, I'm even seeing them, too. Could something in his head really be broken? There was a condition called PTSD, after all. People who experienced a huge accident or a traumatic event usually suffered from this condition. It was only a few days ago since he witnessed the deaths of many of his comrades, not to mention he himself nearly died as well, so it would not be so strange to hear or see weird things as a possible side effect. However, there were a couple of things that prevented him from dismissing this out of hand. Jin-Woo's sight lowered to his leg. The leg that got cut in half by the shield of the stone statue was now all fine and dandy. The voice he heard out of the blue inside the underground temple hidden within the depths of the dual dungeon, his completely cured leg, and now, those words floating in front of his eyes. Too many weird things were happening all at once. What if? There was a chance that all these things were not isolated events but linked to one another. When his thoughts arrived here, his aching head felt just a bit clearer. Okay, fine. Jin-Woo slowly raised his head. Once the confusion in his heart died down and he felt calmer, he became quite curious about the contents of those so-called unread messages. There might be answers to his questions found within those messages, after all. In order to confirm the messages, he reached out towards the words. And his hands simply went past them. It's not touch-operated? It seemed that he got way too used to how a smartphone worked. He couldn't think of any other way to access the messages other than tapping on the icon, though. While he was deliberating on the means to access the messages, he recalled the memories from the moments before he blacked out. Right. That happened. Back then, he could only get his intentions across to that unknown voice by talking to it. Just like back then, I should either form the words in my head or speak it out loud. Thinking that this must be the case, Jin-Woo then began to mutter the potential combination of words one by one. Confirm. Messages. Confirm messages. Check messages. Reading. I want to read. I want to look. Hey, show me already, will ya? It was then. Just what is it that you wish to see that bad? He felt a cold, probing stare coming from the side, so he turned his head to look. And spotted his little sister in her school uniform looking at him from the gap of the half-open door. Jin-Woo became speechless. Her appa, busy glaring at the ceiling while demanding someone to show something to him, he simply didn't know how to explain this one to her. Chapter 8 Fin. Chapter 9. Chapter 9, Chapter 9. Maybe, you hurt your head really bad? The younger sister stood at a distance away and asked Jin-Woo, prompting him to shake his head vigorously. No, that's not it. Even though he denied it, Jin-Woo's younger sibling, Seong Jina's eyes remained suspicious. Are you really okay? Yes, I'm telling you the truth. Jina blankly swept her gaze all over Jin-Woo, before she came closer while her breathing became uneven, angry. And then, as soon as Jin-Woo assumed a defensive posture, she began punching him in all the unguarded parts. I told you to stop getting hurt. You have any idea how worried I was? I'm sorry. Other people walk away fine, but how come it's only you who gets hurt all the time? Sorry. The strength behind Jina's punches gradually seeped away. She soon stopped, and as her head fell, began crying. Jin-Woo slowly patted the back of his sobbing sister. His own nostrils stung quite a bit then. I was thinking of leaving behind this kid alone and dying, wasn't I? What a relief that he made it out alive. When he looked back, there had been way too many brushes with death for comfort back then. It was as if he had experienced one hell of a terrifying nightmare. Jin-Woo's gaze shifted ever so slightly towards the words floating in the air. You have several unread messages. It still feels like I haven't completely woken up from that nightmare just yet, doesn't it? There were so many things he couldn't understand. But, so what? The most important thing was that he came back alive, and he got to see his little sister again. Sniff. Thankfully, his strong old sister stopped crying after a short while. Unfortunately for him, though, her nagging continued on for over 1 hour afterwards. Do you hear me? If you get hurt one more time, I'm going to give up on studying, find a job, and make sure you don't work as a hunter ever again. Jina's sharp glare didn't really suit her pretty face, but that was a biological trait she had shared with her older brother. Okay. I hear you. Jin-Woo nodded his head as if he'd given up. Only after she was able to extract his assurance several times more did she display a hint of satisfaction, and stood up from the seat. You going somewhere? Yeah. To school. I got permission to leave so I could check up on you. So I gotta go back. Jin-Woo nodded his head. Right, the university entrance exams are next year. She might never have received a private tutoring nor did she ever attend extra classes, but she always got ranked within the top 10 in her school until now. Jina dreamed of becoming a doctor. Only until a few years ago, she just loved to waste time on video games and stuff like that, but then, after their mother fell ill, she swore to become a doctor and never stopped studying since. Jin-Woo dearly wished to make her dream come true, no matter what. Hang on a minute. Playing video games? Suddenly, Jin-Woo's eyes gleamed a bit dangerously. Okay, I'm going now. Just as Jina was leaving his room, Jin-Woo urgently called out to her. Hey, Jina? Yeah? When you are playing video games. Jina smirked softly. I don't play games anymore. The third year of high school is only a few days away, you know. I know. There's something I want to ask you, though. Oh, really? Like? I didn't know Appa played video games, though? Gina suddenly displayed an intense interest as a subject she was deeply intimate with once upon a time was brought up. Jin-Woo sneaked a glance at the still floating message in the air and asked her. When there are unread messages in a game, what should I do to access them? You gotta open the mailbox first. I gotta open the mailbox? Tearing. As soon as Jin-Woo said the word open, a clear beep entered his head and the hidden messages revealed themselves. There are 2 unread messages. Congratulations on becoming a player, unread. Daily quest, preparations to become strong, is now available. Unread. Jin-Woo smiled brightly. Finally. Seeing her older brother's complexion suddenly brighten like that, Gina felt something was wrong and quickly asked him. What's up? What game is it? You need my help? Jin-Woo firmly shook his head. Nope, no need. I'll do it alone. How would his younger sibling react if he told her what had been happening to him right now? I really don't want to be labeled as a loon by her. Jin-Woo swallowed back the things he wanted to say for the time being. While pretending to see her out, Jin-Woo confirmed her getting on the elevator, and quickly returned to his room. I can't repeat the same mistake again. Click. To prevent eyewitnesses intruding on him, he even locked the door. Finishing with his preparations, Jin-Woo sat on the bed and read the titles of the messages available to read. Congratulations on becoming a player, unread. Daily quest, preparations to become strong, is now available. Unread. He thought that the first message sounded familiar, as if he heard it before from somewhere. Where have I heard it from? I know I have. So, the first message, then. Congratulations on becoming a player, unread. Confirm. Tiering. This system will support the growth of the player. Failing to comply with the system's instructions will result in potential penalties. Your rewards have been delivered. Ah. He belatedly remembered this. He heard those words just before he lost his consciousness. Back then, it was talking about a player this and that, no? Of course, back then or even now, he still couldn't really understand what on earth was going here. The system, growth, penalties, and finally, rewards. The words with unknown meanings fell on his lap one after the other. Just what will it help grow, and what will it reward me with? Seeing the words that could only be found in a video game appearing before his eyes without any prior explanations, only served to confound him even further. He decided to worry about the confusing words later and calmly opened the next message. Daily quest, preparations to become strong, is now available. Unread. Gulp. Jin-Woo unconsciously swallowed his saliva after reading that rather suggestive title. His heart began to beat faster in anticipation. Confirm. Tearing. Daily quest, preparations to become stronger. Press up, 100 times, incomplete, 0/100. Sit up, 100 times, incomplete, 0/100. Squat, 100 times, incomplete, 0/100. Running, 10 kilometers, incomplete, 0/10. Warning, incompletion of daily quests will result in appropriate levels of punishment. Jin-Woo reflexively spat out a dumbfounded chuckle after confirming the contents of the message. Ha, ha, ha. Seriously, man. Should this be the feelings of disappointment? To think, what the grand-sounding daily quest, the one titled Preparations to Become Strong, was nothing more than a list of physical exercises to train his body. Well, for sure, if he did as the quest said, then his body might get a bit tougher. Was this what that growth and reward thing the system was talking about? Now that I think about it. He recalled reading a quote of a person with an inner problem should pay attention to the inner voice from some book in the past. In other words, one would see what they wanted to see, eventually. Just how desperately did he want to become stronger that he ended up seeing this stupid hallucination? Although it was funny, he also felt a bit lonely inside. If anyone could become stronger by doing these exercises, who would be willing to go through that much hardship, then? Jin-Woo shook his head. He suddenly thought that he was a fool for searching for answers to as many questions from a d*mn hallucination. Ugh. I don't care anymore. Jin-Woo lied down spread-eagled on the bed. He wordlessly stared at the ceiling. He wasn't doing anything important, yet the time continued to tick by. Just as he began to feel the weight of the stillness filling up his hospital room, Jin-Woo abruptly raised his torso off the bed. But, what if? What if something could change? As his thoughts were filled half with the uncertain expectation and the other half by unconvinced curiosity, he began wondering whether he should at least give it a shot. Well, I've got nothing to lose, anyways. There would be no reason not to try it out, if he treated it as a light workout to stretch his muscles or something, no? He made up his mind. Fine. Let's try it. Jin-Woo climbed off the bed and stretched himself for a bit, before leaning against the corner of the bed and slowly performed the press-up. 1, 2, 3. The count started from 1 and quickly climbed upwards. 97, 98, 99, 100. Since he started this thing, he decided to do all 100, but quite different from his expectation, nothing happened when he was finished. Other than his arms aching just a little, that was. Just what the hell am I doing? Jin-Woo smirked helplessly and stood straight up. Congratulations on becoming a player, read. Daily quest, preparations to become strong, is now available. Read. The messages were now marked as read. There were no more words of unread messages popping up in his view, and he also didn't feel like humoring this hallucination anymore, either. He had enough of this, in other words. Jin-Woo closed the mailbox without regret. Yawn. Jin-Woo yawned out at length and climbed back up on the bed. He felt sleepy as if he had pushed himself too hard. The sky outside the window was already dyed in the colors of the sunset. It's already this late, huh? The monitoring division agents said earlier that his hospital fees would be taken care of by the association. He figured that it wouldn't be too late to leave after receiving a thorough examination of his body and get the all-clear from the doctors first. Jin-Woo laid down comfortably while thinking as such. I'm sure these hallucinations and weird things I hear will eventually go away with time. His eyelids slowly closed shut. And Jin-Woo drifted away into a deep slumber. Tick, tock. Even when Jin-Woo was softly snoring to himself, the needles of the clock hanging by the wall continued to tick away. The needles spun and spun around until they indicated 11:59 and 57 seconds p.m. Tick, tock, tick. 58, 59, 60. The needles stopped moving precisely as they touched 12 hours. T-ring. You failed to complete the daily quest. You'll be transferred to the penalty zone for a set period of time. Rumble. Jin-Woo's eyes shot right open from the violent tremor that shook his entire body. An earthquake? Jin-Woo sat right up and grabbed the edges of the bed. The shaking was so bad that he couldn't maintain his balance. Rumble. The shaking got progressively worse as the seconds ticked by. It happened then. SFX for things turning into powder and falling to the floor. One of the steel bars on the bed he held on for dear life suddenly broke. No, it didn't break per se, but simply disappeared. Jin-Woo hurriedly looked at his palm. No steel bar there, just grains of sand. Sand? SFX for things turning into powder and falling to the floor. The other steel bar also transformed into sand as well. Meanwhile, the earthquake became even more violent. Rumble. You walk. In the end, Jin-Woo was thrown off from the bed. He bounced around all over the hospital room and screamed out. Even when that was happening, items within the room was turning into sand one at the time. Yuwawa. Plop. Jin-Woo was flung away and got deposited rather unceremoniously. He felt something soft against his fingertips. They happened to be ultrafine grains of sand. And the accursed earthquake had stopped. Tui. Tui. Jin-Woo spat out the sand in his mouth and hurriedly raised his head up. His eyes caught the sight on an endless plain of nothing but sand. Jin-Woo frowned heavily and got up. All the sand that found its way inside his clothes poured out. He dusted the sand caked on his chest while taking a look around him. Indeed, all he could see was sand. And more sand. A desert. This couldn't be real. Until a few moments ago, he was sleeping on a bed inside a hospital located in the middle of Seoul. But now, as soon as he opened his eyes, he was in the middle of a massive desert? Jin-Woo scooped up a handful of sand and let it slip through his fingers. The fine grains fell straight down to the ground. There is not a single breeze here. It wasn't just the breeze, though. When he raised his head up to look, the sky didn't have a sun, a moon, or any stars for that matter. It was an empty sky, as if it was filled up with black ink and nothing else. However, for some reason, he had no trouble seeing at all. Just where is this place? Chapter 9 Fin. Chapter 10. Chapter 10, Chapter 10. It happened then. Shururururu. Suddenly, the sandy ground next to him caved in and a deep pit formed there. Ha! Ah! Jin-Woo desperately ran away so he could avoid getting sucked in down there. The sandy pit grew wider and wider, and eventually, Jin-Woo had to crawl on all fours just to pull himself out. Pant, pant, pant. He plopped down on his butt, panted heavily and stared at the bottom of the pit. Quite bizarrely, he could see that the sand at the bottom was boiling. Realizing that just one misstep would have resulted in him falling in there sent shivers down his spine. Hang on a minute. Jin-Woo's eyes narrowed in suspicion. It's not actually boiling, is it? When he took a closer look, he spotted something pretty big wiggling down there. Jin-Woo instinctively forced himself up. He was getting a really bad premonition right about now. Sure enough, just as Jin-Woo took a step back, the sand within the pit suddenly exploded upwards. Fushy dash. The falling sand emitted the roar of a waterfall. Jin-Woo's eyes went extra round in the meantime. An insect? The identity of the thing that exploded out from the sand was a giant centipede. Ki-ai-heek. When fully revealed, the D*MN things had almost reached the height equaling that of a 5-story building. Jin-Woo anxiously swallowed his saliva. This is unreal. For sure, the B** was unrealistically huge. He had never heard of a centipede this big existing in the world before. But the size of the centipede wasn't the only thing that shocked Jin-Woo. Why is there a name floating on top of that monster? Was he dreaming again? Jin-Woo closed and opened his eyes again, yet nothing had changed. Even now, there were 5 red words floating on top of the monster's head. Just like a monster from a video game might have. The poison-fanged giant desert centipede. Just like its horrendous and bizarre appearance, its name too was something he'd like to avoid at all cost. What drew his attention the most was the 2 letters poison and fanged. He spotted a pair of fangs as large as a child jutting out just below the B***'s jaw. It didn't take a genius to figure out what might happen if he got stabbed by those fangs simply from its name alone. Seeing those large fangs and its jaw constantly opening and closing, it was as if it's busy licking its lips, right? It was then, the sound went off in his head again. T-ring. Penalty quest, survival. Goal, please survive until the end of the time limit. Time limit, 4 hours. Remaining time, 4 hours 0 minutes 0 seconds. Are you kidding me? However, as soon as the remaining time changed to 3 hours, 59 minutes, and 59 seconds, the centipede parted sand and rushed towards him as if it couldn't wait any longer. SFX for sand parting ways. Well, what the hell? Jin-Woo hurriedly spun around and ran for his life. There was no time to deliberate on things. If he wanted to live, then he had to run. That was the only thought racing in his head. However, even before he had taken several steps, another pillar of sand exploded upwards not too far from his position. Boom! Yuok? Jin-Woo fell on his rear from the powerful shockwave. He rolled on the sandy ground before urgently getting back up. He swiped the sand off his face before his eyes shot open even wider. This time, it wasn't just one or two of them. Boom! Boom! Before he had even noticed it, there were 7 sand centipedes jutting out from the sand and they were all glaring at him. Keech! Keek! As the centipedes issued shrill cries, Jin-Woo's complexion changed for the worse. A lot worse. God d***mn it. Jin-Woo reappeared in the hospital room exactly 4 hours later. Plop. Jin-Woo keeled over on the floor and painfully wheezed out. Cough, cough. Tui, tui. His mouth felt full with this coarse, grainy taste. His eyes stung badly too, seemingly like sand particles got in there. Jin-Woo whimpered and groaned for a long time, before powerlessly falling flat on his back. He didn't have any energy left to lift even a finger. Pant. Pant. Just. What was that? Jin-Woo continued to pant heavily when a new message appeared before him. T-ring. You've completed the penalty quest. Jin-Woo's expression crumpled into something unsightly. A penalty quest? Did he do something worthy of being punished? Jin-Woo carefully retreaded his memories until he recalled the daily quest he abandoned midway yesterday. Could it be? Now that he thought about it, it definitely said that if the quest was not completed, he'd be hit with a corresponding penalty. Pant, that. That was not a hallucination? Indeed, it was not a hallucination nor was it a dream. There was no need to pinch his cheeks to confirm whether this was a dream or reality. When he was running around, the shortness of breath felt so suffocatingly harsh, and the pain he felt when he got grazed by the centipede's leg still felt fresh in his mind. Everything happened for real. He nearly died back there. This is way too much. Pant. The so-called penalty turned out to be him being thrown into a d***mn execution ground. At the same time, another ominous premonition rushed into his mind. If this event was indeed caused by the daily quest thing, then without a doubt, this would not be the last time. Sure enough, he got to hear yet another mechanical beep going off in his head. T-ring. He flinched in surprise, but thankfully, it was not about another quest or anything like that. Rewards for completing the penalty quest is now available. Would you like to confirm the rewards? Y/N. Rewards. The word rewards jumped right out. Too bad, the problem was, he currently didn't have any energy left whatsoever to confirm this and that. His situation simply didn't allow that. Never mind giving me rewards or not. Let me take a break first. His sights gradually blurred. Soon, Jin-Woo fell into a deep slumber akin to a blackout. Oh my gosh? What happened in here? Next morning. A nurse entered Jin-Woo's room, only for her eyes to open up wide in surprise. The patient was lying sprawled on the floor, while sand was everywhere as far as she could see. Not only that, the patient too was full of sand as well. She threw the medical chart on the bed and urgently pressed the emergency buzzer. Please, someone get over here right away. Soon, the doctor in charge rushed into the room. What happened? What's the matter with Mr. Seong Jin-Woo? I don't know. Everything was fine until last night, yet this morning. For now, let's relocate him back on the bed. 1, 2. Two people lifted Jin-Woo off the floor and placed him back on the bed. During the process, the back of Jin-Woo's hand got scratched by the edge of the medical chart left on the bed and his skin tore just a little, but no one noticed that. Let's take a look. The doctor then carefully examined Jin-Woo's condition. However, he couldn't find anything wrong with the youth. What the heck? Isn't he just in a deep sleep? The doctor spat out a sigh of relief. The Hunters Association had requested the hospital to pay a special attention to this particular patient. Understandably, the doctor was scared almost out of his wits while thinking that something bad had happened here. For now, let's let him be. Looks like he's in a really deep slumber at the moment. The doctor in charge spoke to the nurse and was about to leave, but then, he took a look around the room and scratched the side of his head. By the way, this room might need a thorough cleaning. Miss Yura, please take care of tidying this place up. Yes. I shall, doctor. The doctor left the room and the nurse, Choi Yura, patted her chest down. What a relief that it turned out to be nothing to worry about. Sure, they might not be the patient or the relatives of one themselves, but you wouldn't find a doctor or a nurse who wished ill on those they were in charge of. The Hunters Hospital especially saw many heavily injured patients every day. At the bare minimum, she'd like to never see another one of patients she was looking after get worse under her care. Phew. She had calmed down a little now, and began worrying about where should she start tidying this room up, but then, her eyes spotted drops of blood on the floor. Oh my! The blood droplets were coming from the tip of patient's hand that fell outside the bed. She got stunned by this and hurriedly searched for the wound on Jin-Woo's hand, before flipping it around. What's going on here? There definitely was a trace of flowing blood, but she could not find a single wound. She wiped the blood clean, yet the expected wound was not there. Wait. Could his injury heal in that short time? Yura's heart began beating faster as she cautiously studied Jin-Woo's complexion. He was still submerged in a deep, deep sleep even now. Part 7, Daily Quest. T-Ring. Daily Quest is now available. Jin-Woo's eyes shot right open. He quickly raised himself up and the first thing he did was to check the time. The needles of the clock just went past 16:30. Meaning, there was the leeway of 7 hours and 30 minutes before midnight. Good. Jin-Woo opened the mailbox. T-Ring. Daily Quest, preparations to become strong. Press up, 100 times, incomplete, 0/100. Sit up, 100 times, incomplete, 0/100. Squat, 100 times, incomplete, 0/100. Running, 10 kilometers, incomplete, 0/10. Warning, incompletion of daily quests will result in appropriate levels of punishment. It's the same thing, again? He groaned out almost reflexively. No, perhaps this was for the better. Rather than a quest with impossible or hard to understand goals, this was far more preferable, instead. Well, as long as he had enough time, he'd be able to complete this quest after all, although his body might suffer for a bit. Jin-Woo got down to the floor this time and began the press up. 1. Obviously, he was not planning on being dragged to yet another suspicious place and get almost killed there. 2. He got lucky the previous night and survived, but there was no guarantee that would happen tonight as well. 3. He raised his head a little and confirmed the contents of the quest, and noticed that every time he performed a press-up, it was being recorded in real time as well. T-Ring. You've completed one press-up. Press up 100 times, incomplete, 7/100. T-Ring. You've completed one press-up. Press up 100 times, incomplete, 8/100. He wanted to make sure, so he only went down halfway and got back up, but as expected, that didn't count. Now he finally realized why the so-called press-ups of yesterday didn't count. He had to perform the proper press-ups or it wouldn't be counted at all. Ha! Gimme a break. Jin-Woo was dumbfounded, but didn't stop the exercise. He still had 50 more press-ups to go. After that, sit-ups, squats and running were waiting for him. And, 3 hours later. Press up, 100 times, complete, 100/100. Sit up, 100 times, complete, 100/100. Squat, 100 times, complete, 100/100. Running, 10 kilometers, incomplete, 9/10. Pant, 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 pant. Jin-Woo lapped the outer perimeter of the hospital once and arrived back in front of his room. He was currently bent over and panting out heavily. His heart felt like it might explode at any second, but he couldn't give up yet. I worked so crazy hard until now, so no way I would. He somehow managed to open the door and took a step forward. When he did that, T-ring. Total distance ran, 10 kilometers. You've completed running, 10 kilometers. It was finally over. Pant. Pant. Jin-Woo fell down to his knees. His breath reeked of something sweet and bitter. His face and back were soaked in sweat. Pant. Pant. As Jin-Woo tried to regulate his heavy, rough breathing while thick sweat drops continuously dripped down, a familiar message popped up in front of his eyes. T-ring. You've completed daily quest, preparations to become strong, but completion rewards have arrived. Would you like to confirm? Y/N. Jin-Woo momentarily thought about forgetting about everything and simply laying down in defeat, but quickly changed his mind. At least for now, he wanted to confirm what these reward things could actually be with his own eyes first. Confirm. T-ring. The following rewards are available. Reward 1. Full recovery of the current physical condition. Reward 2. 3 additional stat points. Reward 3. 1 random box. Would you like to collect them all? Why are there so many of them? That was the first thought to enter his dazed mind after he took a gander at the contents of his rewards. But, when he thought about it a little deeper, one of those rewards seemed rather useful right now, and there was also one that made him curious about what it could actually mean. For now, he urgently needed the first reward available. He was on the brink of collapsing here. Since there really was a penalty for failure, the odds of completion rewards being real were pretty d*mn high as well. Well, trying wouldn't hurt anyways, right? Seriously, this thing wouldn't throw him back into the penalty zone again after it said it'd give him the rewards, now would it? Chapter 10 Fin. Chapter 11. Chapter 11, Chapter 11. As soon as he muttered that out, a gentle blue aura enveloped him. Isn't this sensation? That? Right away, he recalled Jui's face. When he was getting healed by her, he felt the sensation similar to what he was feeling right now. If he were to put this feeling into words, then it'd be like a refreshing blast of air entering his lungs before leaving again, something like that? Shoo! He felt the blue aura slowly dissipating. For some reason, he kind of felt a bit rueful. Jin-Woo got up from the floor and lightly jumped up and down on the spot and stretched his body this way and that. How can this be? His heart that felt like it might explode was beating calmly now, and his rough breathing had stabilized as well. He didn't even feel a speck of fatigue. His body that was on the brink of collapsing felt refreshed as if he just got up from a night of good rest. The effect, in other words, was top-notch. Isn't this really amazing? Jin-Woo's eyes now resembled circles. He wasn't sure whether this was some kind of magic or not, but this phenomenon could change him in the most astonishing way, without a doubt. In that case, would those stat points be the same? When Jin-Woo shifted his gaze around, he spotted a small box resting on top of the bed as well as his own stat window floating in the air. I guess that thing over there is the random box. The important thing was his stat window, though. This window displayed simple information about himself. Name, Seong Jin-Woo. Level, 1. Class, none. Title, none. HP, 100. MP, 10. Tiredness, 0. Stat. Strength, 10. Stamina, 10. Agility, 10. Intelligence, 10. Perception, 10. Available points to distribute, 3. Skills. Passive skills. Unknown, LV, max. Tenacity, LV, 1. Active skills. -LV, 1. The stat he saw was quite similar to a starting character from an online game he used to play many moons ago. Is this my current stat value? His current level was 1. All of his stats were also at the bottom of the heap, too. If he thought about the current reality of what he was like, the one where he was ranked as the weakest even among the rank E hunters, then there was nothing to be surprised about there. What he paid attention to was the skills column. A passive skill called tenacity and an active one called dash. For some reason, he felt rather familiar with them. Ah. I remember now. Yesterday, or to be more precise, back in the early dawn of this morning, he remembered hearing those words while being chased around by the centipedes in the penalty zone. It happened probably after 3 hours of him constantly running for his dear life. He was suddenly greeted by a couple of new messages. Skill, -LV1 has been learned. Skill, tenacity LV1 has been learned. Back then, he was far too busy running to think about what they could mean, but it was a different story now. Jin-Woo confirmed the explanations available for the skills. Skill, -LV1. Active skill. Mana required to activate, 5. The constant running fortified your legs. When this skill is activated, your movement speed will increase by 30%. During its activation, 1 mana will be spent every minute. Skill, tenacity LV1. Passive skill. Mana required to activate, none. You possess untiring tenacity. When your stamina drops below 30%, this skill will automatically activate and reduce all damage received by 50%. Did I learn dash and tenacity because I stubbornly ran around like there's no tomorrow? That seemed to be about right. In other words, if he kept on repeating a certain action over and over again, and happened to meet the requirement conditions, he would be able to learn new skills. Holy cow! Wasn't this an incredible advantage? The thing was, the skills individual hunters used were acquired when they went through the awakening process, or learned through the items called rune stones that dropped very rarely from monsters ranked A and above. Understandably, the prices of these runestones would start from the lowest of several 100,000 won to dozens of billion wons at the top end. At the last auction, the most expensive runestone was sold for around 70 billion Korean wons. TL, over $62 million. Apparently, this runestone contained a skill that could revert many injured people back to their original conditions in one go, and it was snapped up by an anonymous overseas rank S healer who had reputedly emptied out his entire life savings. Jin-Woo's heart began beating faster. A skill that increased his movement speed, as well as another that decreased the amount of damage received. Sure, they weren't as good as those skills that sold for billions of won, but they were still amazing to him regardless. And he got to learn those for free, too. His overall magic energy value was too low, so it'd be hard to use them properly, but still, it was better than not knowing them, wasn't it? Besides, the tenacity skill doesn't even need mana to activate, too. It seemed that this mana thing was his magic energy. If that was the case, then even though he didn't have a lot of magic energy, he'd be able to freely use the tenacity skill. That alone was a huge gain. By the way, what could this unknown thing be? Skills. Passive skills. Unknown, LV, max. that unknown that occupied one whole slot of the passive skills column. Since it was located in the passive column, that meant it activated automatically, but there was not one explanation or any information on it. Not even a single clue, huh? The amount of information he could learn was just too limited. Even if he burst his brain trying to figure it out, he knew there wouldn't be any answers. So, Jin-Woo shifted his gaze to elsewhere. Stat points, is it? 3 additional stat points he got as a reward remained there, still to be distributed. Stat. Strength, 10. Stamina, 10. Agility, 10. Intelligence, 10. Perception, 10. Available points to distribute, 3. I'm sure this means I can increase any one of my stats by 3 points, right? There were 5 categories in the list of stats. Maybe because he was a mere level 1, the values of each stat were simple, to say the least. However, if he considered how reality operated, he couldn't take these stats lightly at all. If his abilities changed for real with a moment's decision, then who in this world would be able to casually make such choices? Jin-Woo's expression became serious. Strength is no doubt talking about my physical power. He could more or less figure out what strength, stamina, and agility could mean. After all, those were the kind of stats one would often encounter in video games. The question was with the last 2 stats, intelligence and perception, then. And just like before, the unfriendly system didn't provide any answers whatsoever. If he increased intelligence, would he get actually smarter, for instance? And, if he increased perception, then would he become more sensitive? Whatever the case may have been, he felt that those 2 stats didn't really seem all that useful to him right now. He was a melee-type hunter, to begin with. What he needed was power, speed, or even stamina. If you were to ask me to choose between the 3, I'd inevitably go with strength. If he got physically stronger, many things would become that much easier for him. Also, he wanted to find out what kind of change would take place with his body once the stat values had been increased. Since he thought that this change would be much more prominent with the increase in the strength stat, he ended up investing all 3 points on it. All 3 points to the strength stat. T-ring. Stat. Strength, 13. Stamina, 10. Agility, 10. Intelligence, 10. Perception, 10. Available points to distribute, 0. Is that all? Indeed, it looked like it. The only change he could tell was the strength stat value floating in front of his eyes like hologram projection changing from 10 to 13. Unlike how it was in cartoons or movies, his body didn't feel like it was overflowing with uncontrollable power or anything like that.